This episode of Constellation is sponsored by HelloFresh. So ditch the meal planning woes and dive into HelloFresh with their biggest menu yet, with over 50 recipes to choose from. HelloFresh is quick and convenient recipes that are delivered right to your door. Just pick your meals and a delivery date. For free breakfast for life, go to hellofresh.com/freecon. One free breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life just by going to hellofresh.com/freecon.
Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast, is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our podcast network, head to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Constellation, Last Stand Media's conversational podcast. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined today by a very special cast, as I always am. However, at the top, before we even get into anything, I do want to acknowledge something and just say that we're thinking of Dustin. I'm sure you guys have heard the news. We're not going to get deep into it here. It's a horrible and terrible thing that has happened. Dustin has discussed it on social media. And obviously, we've talked about it extensively behind the scenes. And we just wanted to say that we were thinking about him. We didn't really even, the honest answer is, like, we didn't really even know if we should be doing shows because of the news. And I feel like maybe, well, I feel two things. Knowing Dustin, I feel like he would be like, insist that the show would go on. But I also feel like maybe levity and conversation and distraction is good right now. So just wanted to say that at the top, that we're thinking of Dustin. We're talking to him obviously constantly behind the scenes, and Holly as well, obviously. And yeah, it's a terrible situation. But we didn't even know if we should acknowledge it again doing the show. But we always have this like open, honest kind of thing going on with each other. And so maybe just saying it at the top and acknowledging and just getting it right over with is the best course forward. So does anyone else have anything to add? Is that good? Is that, yeah? All right. Let's go around the horn. Say hello to everyone. My wife, Micah Moriarty, welcome to the show, my dear. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. I am happy to be here with the gang. Happy to be here definitely with two of the most lighthearted people in our roster as well. Because it is just like, yeah, we really could just use a little cheering up, everybody. So happy to be here with you guys. And, we're going to just make the best of it this afternoon.
Yes. Lockmort, all the way from Europe. Great.
Yes.
How are you today, my friend?
Well, yeah, I'm doing okay despite the news, of course. But other than that, yeah, very happy to be here with you guys. That's always a lot of fun. I'm also glad that we're nearing the end of summer here in Belgium, because then I can go outside again. So I can't wait for it to be September.
Right on. It's good to see you. Invoice me any moment now. And finally, David Jaffe, storied games developer, longtime collaborator now. Welcome to the show. How are you today, my friend?
I am very sad.
Yeah. It's a terrible thing. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do for him. It's like
there's nothing.
Yeah, I assume so.
There's
and it's not about me. So it's like.
It's it's the world, it's pain. And when you think about, again, I'm very sad. I'm very, very sad. I'm not surprised that I'm that sad, but I just, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do the best. We'll do the best we can to be normal and we'll get into our lanes and get into it. No doubt about it. But it is a somber.
I already had a great political joke already before we went live.
Right.
Come on. So I can't not get back to me eventually. I always love that theory that everybody has a level of happiness that's basically kind of they're locked in, and you can kind of elevate and you can get depressed, but everyone eventually resettles at their base. That's kind of the current theory of sort of the state of mind that's called happiness. And I don't spend too long in the doldrums, thank God. What a gift! But I just, as a dad and as a guy, we lost. It doesn't matter. As a dad and as a, I just love my kids and I love family, and I know how excited and it just breaks your fucking heart is what it does. So I'm sad, but we will move to we will now medicate with food as I do. And we will move to a place of levity and fun for those listening.
Yes. And of course, with the help of Ozempic, you're in the best of both worlds now. So
this episode sponsored by Nutter Butter Peanut Butter Cookies. Have another Nutter Butter Peanut Butter Cookie from Nabisco and your friends at Microsoft. All right,
hell yeah, dog. Those, and you know what? Nutter Butter are dairy free. So that's a treat that I also indulge
Are they really
in.
dairy free?
Yeah, no lactose in the Nutter Butters.
Yeah, but they have cow, bovine is cow, right?
Yes.
yeah, that's
They
right.
have hooves, like
That's okay.
They powdered the hooves of the cow to make.
Oh, that's fine.
Is that true?
No.
That's what they use for.
Oh.
That is what's in like gelatin and such things.
Yes, it is. That's why I stopped eating gelatin, because it grossed me out when I learned.
Oh,
that.
I could never give up marshmallows. You could tell me it's made out of pig butthole, and I'd be like, that's fine. I'm eating it.
What is this though? It's like the Indians would be so proud of us because you did say every part of the bison,
Oh yeah, we're using it.
and we're using every part of it. So
Can
enjoy.
you eat a pig's butthole, or is the hole? Is it like eating a donut hole?
Right.
Or
Right.
do you mean the rectum? Basically, is what you.
It's like
mean.
when you look. It's like when you look at a black hole, you can't see the singularity, but rather
right.
what's around it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, Colin.
Right.
DeGrasse Tyson.
This is why most American food is illegal in Europe. But yeah, it sounds delicious.
Love that. Love that.
Jaffa cakes, yeah, sure. Like you guys don't have your shit over there.
That's the UK.
Jammy
That's not Europe,
Dodgers.
Oh,
Yeah,
hell
that
yeah.
That's the UK. Yeah.
When I
fair
was at Kind of Funny, we they still do stuff with why can't I think of his name? The guy that wrote Rogue One, Gary Whitta, and really nice guy from Britain. Obviously, he's lived in the United States for a while. Famous screenwriter, and he would come on the show sometimes, and he'd bring British treats for people. I would never try them because he would know. He'd be like, I know you don't want any of this. It's like all this weird shit. But the other guys would all, and we would review them, and they would review them, and so foreign food is very interesting to me because you just really are used to what you're used to. I remember walking into a supermarket in Germany and everything is just different. Like everything, but it's all the same. If you could like get past the labels and the boxes, it's the same shit, but you're just so engineered and everything seems so, it's literally foreign. It's like, I don't know what to eat. I don't know what to do. I don't like this, and we're so blessed in the United States to have like an abundance of food. We have too much food. Food is comically cheap in the United States compared to a lot of other places, but some people wouldn't call it food. I do. I like my corn syrup. Totally fine with it. It's totally fine. All right, let's look at the topics today as we stretch our legs and get going. You know what? I want to go with mine first. It's like a kind of a deeper one, but it doesn't have to be. I wanted to just get your take on this. So I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, and maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but probably in passing, you've seen this kind of developing over the last couple of years, that the new Warner Brothers, which is Warner Brothers Discovery now, is failing. Basically, it went public it merged in 2022 and has lost 70% of its market value in that time. I wrote in our email with each other. It has a $40 billion. It holds $40 billion of debt with only a $17 billion market cap. So the company's in really bad shape. It's run by this guy named David Zaslav, who you can read about. And in fact, when I was researching for what I'm about to propose to you guys, I was reading about the history of Warner Brothers and the history of this brand. And it's the fucking classic history of corporate nonsense. Like you start glossing over as you read, like year by year and decade by decade, what this company has done. And these guys bought this and they started this thing and they got together with American Express and launched the movie channel and they did this and then they sold this part of this. And then it's like fucking nonsense. It truly is. Like I started like losing track of the entire thing. And so we've been brought to this point. Remember once Warner was with AOL, which was like a huge deal and all this kind of crazy shit. So now they found their way to Discovery. They own CNN and a few other things. But the brand is dying. They apparently lost something like $20 billion or something like that over the last 2 quarters. And we've seen it kind of creep into our sphere with the cancellation of movies like Acme versus Coyote or Coyote versus Acme or whatever version it is, where they basically just wrote that off so that they can start writing these things down and get better tax rates.
Batgirl too, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Batgirl. And so on and so forth. So what I did for the audience out there is I emailed Locke, Jaffe, and Micah, and I just said, I was like, here's some details about the company and a recent story about their situation. And I thought it would be fun if we were installed a CEO, like what would you do? Because, and what I did was I sent them a list of all of their brands and all of their assets. So like, the financial situation, the brands you have, it's just made up. You can do whatever the fuck you want. I mean, you could totally liquidate it, which is, by the way, what is part of what I would say, and start having people consolidate around you. But I wanted to know what you guys think of this, because this is a major brand that's in a lot of trouble. And it's not like Netflix. It's not like Apple or Amazon. Like, this is a deeply unhealthy media conglomerate. So, Locke, let's go to you first. Europeans go first.
Oh, thank you.
On Constellation.
Well, the first thing I would do is something they already did. I would close down Rooster Teeth, which they own for some reason. I think they closed it down last year, right?
It was earlier this year, I want to say.
Oh, earlier this year. Okay. Yeah. Do you know the reason? Did they give any reason why they did that?
I just think that the entire idea of the multi-channel network, which was, so people can read about MCNs, and about it a lot because you're in the YouTube space, but yeah, MCNs were this idea at the turn of kind of the aughts into the 20 teens of having tons of channels and like a network of companies. You'd sell ads as a collective, and the bigger the better, because you can sell ads with more leverage. So Rooster Teeth kind of grew in that, and then they sold to Full Screen, and then Full Screen was part of Warner Brothers later. And so that's how it's part of this whole mess. I dare people to go read the fucking Wikipedia for this. Like, you cannot keep it straight. It was when I literally saw American Express pop up and Viacom and all these companies and all these like fucking stupid little companies they made and spun off and sold out. It's like, oh my God, it's crazy. So I think that they were just part of that. It's what IGN is still trying to do by buying Eurogamer and all of these things, is like creating a huge tent where you can sell lots of ads underneath it at a higher rate. So that's a long way of saying that. That's where I think that came from, was they wanted to get a piece of that, like a lot of other companies did, but it didn't work out. I remember Philip DeFranco founded or went to Revision 3 and sold that shit, I think, also to Warner Brothers at some point. And yeah, it just went that way.
True. Well, that's the first thing I would do. And then after that, I would focus on like the prestige model that HBO has in place. Like you only invest in things that are like known entities and like, works. So for Warner Brother movies or DC movies, I would do anything in my power to get like Christopher Nolan back and make like The Dark Knight Returns about an older Batman, because that works. That'll get people in. I would get Danny DeVito to play the Penguin again, like he did in the older Batman movies. But I would also keep it separate from like the Matt Reeves universe with the Batman or Todd Phillips and the Joker. I would keep it all separate, but I would put all money on that and scrap everything else. So no Superman, no James Gunn, whatever he's building, it's probably really cool, but you don't know if it's going to work. So it's a risk. So I would scrap that risk. I would tie it in with Rocksteady, let them make a new Batman game based on the movie. No Suicide Squad, nothing special, just another Batman game like we're used to. I would merge all the Cartoon Network, Adult Swim. There were a couple of more of them. I would merge them all together.
Boomerang, right, was one of them, I think.
Yes, and something called Boing or something. I had no idea what that was, but I'm presuming it's fun and for kids. Here in Belgium, at the TV network where I work at, we have this special what's it called? Like a broadcasting station on TV. And half the day, like in the morning, you have like all the kids shows, and then in the afternoon it switches to the adult version, and you get like the news and stuff. So that's what I would do. I would get rid of all the separate channels, merge them all into one. In the mornings, it's children's stuff, cartoons, whatever. Adults, or maybe Adult Swim is like after 12 a.m. But in the evening, I would switch to more serious stuff. Same thing for sports. You're not going to like this probably, but I would merge all sports together. I saw Eurosport was on there, which is, of course, all the Eurosports we have. And I know the network I work at competes with Eurosport to get like distribution rights for the Olympics or for the Tour de France or soccer. So if it was up to me, I would merge Eurosport with the American equivalent and just go all in on streaming services, make like one global streaming service, acquire the rights to every major global sporting event, which is probably not possible because that would be a monopoly, and just make 24/7, 20 live streams all the time. You have your Euro viewers, you have your American viewers, merge them all together and see how that works. You could probably fire 90% of your commentators who just do nothing basically except waddle about sports. Again, the network where I work at, we already do this. We have the Olympics TV network, which is it's called now, which is just 4 live streams, and people can just pick what they want to see from the Olympics, and that's it. We basically don't really have to do anything about it, so it's very easy for a network to do something like that. I would also merge all the food channels. Same thing, same principle. I would also merge all the Discovery channels. So basically what I would do, I would merge as much as possible and fire everyone else and get rid of everything else. I know that's probably not popular, but
it's extreme, but it would be what would be necessary to make this work. I think at this point.
Yeah. I keep thinking about what Elon Musk did with Twitter. Like, just get rid of 90% of the people, or 80%, or how much percent he got rid of, and it worked. So I think that's something they should be thinking about, maybe. Or what the hell do I know? Of course, but that's what I would do.
I'm somewhat obsessive about thinking about headcount and like how much bloat is in all these companies. Just working in a modest media company of a few hundred people, I would argue that a third of the people there didn't do anything and weren't needed to be there at all, or didn't do anything useful. It was crazy how much bloat could even sneak into an operation that big. So when you get to a company that's hundreds of thousands of people, like the big tech companies in the United States, it's like, dude, there's probably literally 50,000 of you that really don't need to be here. Like, it's just too bureaucratic. We have no idea what anyone does. It's meetings and fucking emails. Yep. Fake jobs, as the term goes. And
it literally just happened to me. Like, I didn't get fired. Like, my contract didn't get renewed for a couple of weeks. Because we have a new government here, and our network works for the government, and the government told our network, like, get rid of half the people. So that's what they did. Like, everyone who wasn't like a steady employee there, who was like a freelancer, they told them, okay, you're on hold now for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. Which is what needs to be done, I think, sometimes. Sucks for me and sucks for a bunch of my colleagues, but we all get it. If you want the network to survive, it needs to do harsh stuff like that, I think. So I'm very curious to see what happens with Warner Brothers. I didn't know they were in this much trouble, because you'd think they have so many great IP and so many great stations. So you'd think they have like a plan or something, but I guess not.
I think they're over leveraged clearly, and I think some of their brands don't really hold the prestige or the power that they once did. Like they own a big pillar of their IP ownership is CNN, and I'm not trying to. It's not really a political statement to say no one gives a fuck about CNN. It really was the down the middle station back to the 80s, and it's really not that anymore. It's like kind of a light version of MSNBC, and we already have. It's like what we always say with Seinfeld, like we already have a George. It's like we already have an MSNBC. That's why CNN's getting destroyed. And one of the most craziest things that WB did under this WB Discovery banner, after it acquired CNN and did all these things, was it closed down CNN Plus like a week after it launched. I don't know if you guys remember that. They wrote down like hundreds of millions of dollars on that investment. They have all these guys under contract, like this talent that they don't need anymore. It's totally misrun.
This episode of Constellation is sponsored by HelloFresh. Let's be honest, going to the grocery store can be a bit annoying. Between planning out all your meals with what you need to buy, along with finding everything in a busy aisle, it can become a real chore. Plus, half the time, I don't even know what to make at home. As much as we love grilling hot dogs and burgers, by the end of summer, we're ready for a change. And finding new recipes online can be a pain. Seriously though, why do recipe blogs need to include a novel for a chili recipe? So ditch the meal planning woes and dive into HelloFresh with their biggest menu yet, with over 50 recipes to choose from. HelloFresh is quick and convenient recipes that are delivered right to your door. Just pick your meals and a delivery date. HelloFresh will handle the planning, shopping, and most of the prep work, so all you have to do is open it up and start cooking. One of the reasons I love HelloFresh is that it makes it easier for me to make smarter choices with my calories, thanks to their fit and balanced, wholesome recipes that feature fresh produce and are under 650 calories. For free breakfast for life, go to HelloFresh.com/freecon 1 free breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life just by going to hellofresh.com/freecon.
But before I go further into what I would do, Jaffe, let's hear from you. I would love to know your idea from a creative standpoint, especially.
Yeah, I mean,
they own so much,
Warner Brothers, if you go further on the Wikipedia, right? I mean, it really is the classic movie studio. And that's what I have always loved about it. They're the studio of Casablanca and the literal Warner Brothers and the Warner Brothers Tower. And you go to the back lot and it really is a representation of that kind of old Hollywood glamour that came up in the 20s, starting in the 20s and, went into the 50s. And so that to me, and I think they have Turner Classic Movies as part of HBO Max, which is what I have. And I love that part, even though I know it's all romanticized. I love that aspect of Hollywood. And I was so pissed off when I learned that the Zaslav guy, when he moved in to his office, he literally went down into the basement. I think I've said this before, but the story just never left my brain. And he got Jack Warner, who was the big mogul from that time period. He got his desk from the basement, and it's now his desk in his office. And I'm just like, dude, you do not fucking deserve to be sitting behind that desk. You came from like the Discovery Channel, which was not the Discovery Channel that I grew up with. It was educational television. It's toddlers and tiaras bullshit.
Yeah, it's like reality TV. Yeah.
Right. So let me just first, I don't like this guy. As to Lockmort's idea, though, of getting all the sports, one of the reasons they're in trouble is they're struggling to retain or get the rights to the NBA. And when a couple of months back, Zaslav was saying, "Oh yeah, we're not sinking or swimming based on that." And now they're desperate to be able to broadcast those games and shit. So
they sued over it. For people that don't know, they made it. TNT is part of WB. They've run basketball games for like 40 years, really big programming, and the option was up, so there was new bidders. And I don't know if it was like Amazon or one of these companies came in and outbid them, and then the WB countered, and then the NBA was like, "Well, we're not really interested," and so WB sued the NBA, saying that it's like a fair offer or whatever. So it's a pretty desperate situation.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just
no. Hey, come on now. But hang on. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, I don't like this guy, and I'm a fan of the streaming services, and may I say to the comments, whether you're talking Game Pass or Netflix, go fuck yourselves. Only because now we know just this week we've got Netflix is profitable, Disney Plus is profitable, Paramount Plus is profitable now. So this idea that the streaming services don't work, yeah, they do. Fuck you. It's just go get an education, you fucking idiot. Anyway, that's A. But regardless, though, I had Max. I have Max. I was very happy with it, and then he comes in, and it's no longer HBO. It's Max, and it looks like a fucking pawn shop if you go to the main screen, where it's no longer like, the Dark Knight trilogy and Studio Ghibli's got a section there. I mean, all that stuff is still there, but it is now sort of shoulder to shoulder with all these reality things and Say Yes to the Dress and all this, as if those things are the equivalent quality. And it looks like a fucking, like I said, it looks like a bargain bin that you would find at Rite Aid or CVS of DVDs that they couldn't get rid of. Right. And there's like a Steve Guttenberg movie from 2004. It's just, what the fuck is this? So I don't, and then I don't think he's good at what he does. I think he's crap. I think he's wrong for the job. Here's what I would do. And the real tricky part about these questions about if you were CEO, it's a real question of sort of what is the end goal. If, one of the problems I have with a lot of these companies is that if the end goal is simply to make money for your stockholders, then that's a sort of almost like a different thing. But if I was the CEO, I would be looking more for long-term value, for building the overall brand. I do think I don't think creative companies are meant to get this big. I think there are companies that can sustain these massive industry type things. But I think when you're looking at a company like Warner Brothers, there's a point where it's just like, you know what, that's too much. You're not going to get the work done. So I mean, there are practical things we have to sort of take off the table. What is my responsibility as a CEO? Blah blah blah. But here's what I think would be good for the company financially, and good for the company in terms of just good for the world in terms of content. So here's what I would do. I would, number one, I would only make $50 million movies until they have shown, and they do something like they just put out the Zendaya movie that was a hit, Challengers. They've got Turtles all the way down. But I mean, the problem with movies today and in games today and in TV is that everything is based off old brands because it's too risky to try to make new brands. And whenever they make these movies or TV shows that are new, that don't cost a lot of money, they're always these kind of either art house things or they're these, young adult teen comedies. And that's great. Those do well. But to say, look, you're a creative guy, Christopher Nolan, you're a creative guy, Kojima. If you can't express something really cool and you have almost carte blanche to do it with $50 million, I mean, because ultimately that's where the next brands are going to come from. So I would say maybe once or twice a year we can spend the $250 million to make a big tentpole movie. If it is like Lockmort saying we can get a Batman movie from Nolan, fine. But you know what? We're going to put $50 million into just totally cool sci-fi concept that could become the next Terminator versus just continually putting money into Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and what all these brands they have, the DC shit. So that would be the first thing, is I would be very much about 90% of our content is $50 million movies. You cannot go above that, but we still want to hire creatives and give them a lot of freedom. I would invest in new things. This idea that we're chasing the NBA, the MLB, maybe it's the game designer in me, but make some new fucking sports. When's the last time we had some new fucking sports? I mean, seriously, you could create at this point 4 or 5 or 6 prototype sports, and maybe one of, it might be like the XFL. It doesn't catch on, but fuck, if you get one of them, it's like the free to play model. All you need is one Fortnite. You got the next football and you own the goddamn thing. So, and I think there'd be a lot of people that would tune in to watch a reality show of every week. It's like, or every month, how long it takes. Here's a new sport we invented. What do you think? I'd watch the shit out of that.
It's so funny you say that, Jaffe, because it's in watching the Olympics, like the last couple of weeks, there are so many sports that exist. Right. That I'm like, if only this had leverage in media. Like I look at a game like water polo and I'm like, this game is fucking dope, man. This is a fucking cool ass game. Maybe it just needs a little more exposure. So you would think that maybe even buying into one of those things, like, I don't know, something like lacrosse or rugby or I don't know, man. Anyway, sorry to interrupt again. No.
I was just thinking, like I said, you put sharks in the water and then I'd watch the shit out of water polo. But still though, no, I think, what are those people with the guns, that hot chick with the gun?
Oh yeah,
the sharpshooters.
Yeah, come on.
That guy from Turkey.
Well, yeah, he's just like, what are you here for? I was here to pick up some groceries for my wife. Here, you want to compete? The guy from Turkey didn't show up. Yeah, fuck it.
Dude, Jeff, you'll love the whole, scuttlebutt about that guy. Like no one really knows for sure, but it's like people have been saying like that guy is definitely like a spec ops like dude in their military or something.
Oh,
like he's
awesome.
He's so good. It's like ridiculous. Like he's
fantastic.
Someone has said something like that's not just a regular dude. There's just no way. Yeah.
Or is she? Yeah. I mean, imagine this would never. I'm being silly, but I'm kind of not. Like I'd watch a movie about this, but it's like you think about the Trump assassination, and I'll put that in quotes because staged. But anyway, the Trump assassination attempt. It was like, have an event like that. Just no Secret Service, but like 8 sharpshooters. And so, hey, good luck trying to get Trump. But we got these 8 sharpshooters, and the one who gets it gets $1 billion anyway. So I would try to invent some new sports. I really would. I'm not joking about that. I think it's kind of ridiculous when you think about how long it's been since we've had a viable new obsession in that world. Then I know this sounds a little kooky, but I've had some experiences recently with, I don't mean AI like the stuff that you and I usually debate about, but I mean like conversational AI where I was playing 7 Days to Die the other day. And I had the voice chat GPT on my phone. And because I was a little confused, and I started asking it questions, and I was just like, hey, what does this thing mean? And what does this arrow mean? And it had all the answers. It was great. And then we started talking, and I said, do me a favor, role play as a survivor of this apocalypse that we're in. And it did. And it started like acting. It's giving me all the information I want, but it's also like, hey, what did you do before the apocalypse? And asking me questions and making jokes about zombies and shit. And I was just like, between that and AR, and these are nascent, I'm not saying this will be paying off in a week or a month, but creating artificial intelligent, well-written characters for people to purchase and have in their existence, I think there's real value in getting into that space. And a company like Warner Brothers, either using IP that you already have, like, oh, look, it's Harry Potter. Here he is. I don't know how they talk over there, but it's the wizard guy, or brand new characters. I think there's something interesting there. I would, what else? I would license a lot of my big stuff while I'm making the $50 million things. I just like they're talking about doing with their video games. I would say, look, Spielberg, you want a Harry Potter, make it with Amblin or whoever. They still make their money. They don't give up the rights. It's not like the Disney Marvel Spider-Man deal with Sony. But it would just be like, hey, we're giving Paramount or we're giving Sony a 10-year exclusive right to make Harry Potter movies. And we still get money from it and all that stuff. But we're not investing in that right now. We're trying to build the next generation of franchises. So I would do that. It's almost like, when a football team goes away for a few years and it's like a building season, 2 or 3 seasons of building. That's what this would be like. And then the final thing I would do, which is just totally selfish, besides getting all the Max shit, you can have Max on, or you can have the Discovery shows on Max, but put them in a little fucking corner, put them in the back behind some beads, like the old porn used to be in the old video stores. It's like it's the unsavory part. But what I would do, honestly, my last thing is I don't know how much money it would make, but like I said, I so love the Hollywood glamour stuff that they were about, even though I know so much of it was fictionalized and PR because none of that shit's ever real. I would open like a theme park or a hotel that's just like lets you step into that, come to Hollywood. And if you actually go to Hollywood Boulevard, it's a shithole, as we all know. But if you go to the Warner Brothers Hotel, the fantasy, you can have the fantasy. Probably lose tons of money, but that's what I do because I get one fucking free thing as the CEO, God damn it. And that's what I would do. That's my take.
I love it. I really feel like you were onto something with sports as a sports person.
Yeah.
Where it is true, things were invented over time and evolved over time. And the games that we love now have themselves evolved. But baseball's from like the middle of the 19th century, and like we're still into it. And that's cool. But again, the Winter Olympics remind me of this too, where I'm like, there's so many cool games going on and we just don't pay attention to them. And the big thing, and I don't know if you read into this at all, Jaffe, but I just know this as a football fan, especially, but people will bet on anything now, and they're betting on the election like crazy. Mm-hmm. And they'll bet on the next play, they'll bet on the next pitch, who will score the next point. Like they'll bet, and you got to give them like something compelling and tie that in directly. That's how you get to salvation, I think, with one of these new sporting endeavors, and you make a shit ton of money, by the way, doing that too. So nice. All right, Micah, put on your CEO hat. What would you do with Warner Brothers?
Well, first, I want to totally agree with the sports thing, because even in our own community, for example, pickleball, which is sweeping the nation, and you can go to various stores and you'll find all these pickleball related accessories, Christmas ornaments, all these different things. And it's like, this sport is huge. And I constantly see, people on Facebook looking for friends to play with, looking for new people to meet. Like, when I was doing the Bumble BFF to try and like meet a friend here, basically, there were so many girls who were looking for people to play pickleball with. Like, that's just an example of there are plenty of sports that are on the rise anyway, and we just don't have a way to watch them. Like, that could be something. But here's the thing. Me putting on a CEO hat is like asking a preschooler, to save their parents' marriage. So I have ideas, but they are not very good. But here's the thing. I am a big fan of some of these brands that they own. Number one, we need to get HGTV back on track. okay, back to its former glory. House Hunters, we need to order 100 new episodes, and we need to tailor it to the modern audience. We know that in this economy, owning a home, purchasing a home is becoming, more and more difficult. We need to lean into that. We need to lean into the vicarious, living through the television. So they used to do these specials like House Hunters, life on the beach, House Hunters, waterfront property. You got to lean into those because you need to just acknowledge that it's unrealistic, and it needs to be kind of like that VH1 Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous type show. Like, it's got to be like that. We just got to lean into it, that the number of people who, can reasonably buy a home, they want to watch it. They want to live through the TV. So we're going to do that first. TLC. We got to get back to some of the old standbys, okay? They kind of got lost a little bit with all the new shows. I need them to monetize a new family. All right. TLC, we had, John and Kate plus 8, which I loved when I was a kid. I fucking loved that family.
Didn't something happen with them? Like, didn't that dude go
yeah. Like they got divorced. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
The dad ended up being a waiter or something. It was a whole thing, whole debacle. But I need them to monetize a new family. We had John and Kate plus 8. We had the Roloff family. We had the little couple. Okay, the Dirty Duggars. We gotta they need to find a new family for us to follow.
Duggars
they gotta
too, wasn't that? Weren't they fucking? Didn't something happen with them?
Yeah, the
whole
son,
idea though.
The son was a predator.
Yeah, right. That's right.
It was a whole thing. There was a big debacle. They need to vet the family better.
Dude, better. Yeah, right. Better vet them. Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Are you saying it would have been better if they would have been like, you want a camera in JD Vance's house is what you want.
I just need them to find a nice, wholesome family that we can all rally behind. For example, the Roloffs. I believe the biggest scandal was just that the dad was mean. So, they ended up just they stopped doing the show, but I don't think anything catastrophic happened there. So we just need a new family for TLC to put us. Honey Boo Boo, for example, another tragedy. All right, here comes Honey Boo Boo once again, child predator on the show. We got to stop doing that.
Unbelievable.
We got to vet these people a little better. But I think the winning formula for TLC is My 600-Pound Life and a family reality show. We just got to get back to those simple times.
You have to lose 30 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got to get Dr. Now. Yeah, right. He's
do a better
classic
impression of him than I do, I think. Yeah.
No, yeah, because he'll be like, you could have lost 30 pounds this month. Like
that guy fucking rules. I love that guy. He doesn't give
fantastic.
a shit.
He's just great. He's trying to help.
He's trying to help.
He's just very no nonsense about it. Like he's like, if you want this, he's like, I'm not going to cut you open unless you do something for yourself. And then he sticks to it.
Dude,
that guy means business.
I'm not trying to be rude at all. It's just an obvious observation. I've said this behind the scenes many times. I'm probably on the shows before. I do not understand how you or someone around you doesn't stop you from getting that big. Like, that's an insane level, in my opinion, of that would have been unheard. That is unheard of levels of weight 50 years ago or 100 years ago. Like,
how do you stop it?
I don't know, man.
How do you stop somebody from being an alcoholic? How do you stop someone from being depressed?
It's true.
But the thing with the food, though, when we watch My 600-Pound Life, it is literally at a point where the people end up bedridden, and you are the one bringing them the food. You are the one who's bringing them what they ask for. It would take an immense amount of willpower, but you would just have to say, I am not going to McDonald's for you. Like, you are bedridden, and you're going to eat what I bring you, and you would just have to do it, or they would starve to death. But it really is when you get to that point of someone is literally 600 pounds and cannot move, it is up to their family to be like, we will not do this anymore. You have to stop eating this, because they're not leaving the house.
But I'll also say, Micah, it's when I don't watch it so much anymore, but I used to love Intervention. And you watch that, and once in a while you sympathize with the person, like the junkie, but most of the time you're like, what a fucking loser. Like, get your shit together. What are you doing to yourself? What are you doing to the people around you? Look at the destruction of everything around you. And it's a similar sort of thing. Like, I feel like it's a little more kid glovish with people that do that to themselves. And it's like, I'm fascinated by, I'm almost 200 pounds. I'm not fucking svelte by any stretch of the imagination. But what I'm thinking, Jaffe, is like, just think about the maintenance calories. Like, I know. Like, I always think about this with the people like with Dr. Now, where I'm like, dude, if I were him, just to get people going, I'd be like, just overeat. Don't like, eat all day, but eat like 3,000 calories. And if you do that, you'll just shed a bunch of your weight because it's unnatural and it will go away. Like, you have to eat 10,000 calories a day to stay like this. You know?
And I have to imagine everybody on this panel has had some kind of, had their life touched in some way by whether it's somebody that they love who is dealing with depression or another kind of addiction or whatever. The challenge becomes, it's not, it's like the Rosie O'Donnell thing when she was like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to eat the bag of carrots. It's not like I'm a moron. I get that carrots will let me not be fat, but I want the cookies, right? Because it gives me something I don't currently have in my life. And so when you're dealing with people who are in those crisis zones, physiologically or psychologically or both, it's sometimes they are in such pain and you just want to take their pain away, and it's a chronic thing until they do get their shit together. So, and they're dealing with a lot of things that are internal that you can't see. And so it just, to me, over the years, it's become more and more of a sense of cruelty to sort of, you got to know when saying get your shit together is an act of love and when it's an act of ignorance, I think. And it's an act of ignorance when you think they're in the same headspace that you are, because if they could, they would. It's not like they want to be depressed. It's not like they want to be bedridden, but something's going on. And I think sympathy is important for that, but that's just me.
Well, fair enough.
Well,
I didn't mean to derail it. Go ahead, Micah.
Well, aside from the woman who's trying to have the largest hip circumference in the world, I agree with you that most of these people are not intentionally doing
that
this
sounds hot.
to themselves.
That sounds hot.
Yeah, Jaffe, it's something, all right. It's something. But my plan, okay?
Yes.
The next thing we got to do, this is the biggest idea that I have, because this was huge back in the day, and I think it could be huge again. Have you guys heard of Meerkat Manor?
Oh, of course.
Which was a show on Animal Planet, narrated by Sean Astin. But I got to tell you, when that show was on, my mom, sister, and I, we watched it week to week like a soap opera. And we really were dying to know what would happen next to this family of meerkats. And for those not familiar with the show, it was like a, animal documentary. They're following these two dens of meerkats that are kind of like rival clans, essentially. Meerkats are very territorial, even within their own family units, though. Like, they will murder each other. Like, they'll cast each other out. Like, if one of them, you have like your top meerkat, and if you try to steal their place and you lose, like, you are exiled, and like those meerkats like will not survive on their own. They can't survive without their clan, right? It was some of the most exciting television. It was narrated by Sean Astin, okay? It was just fantastic. I feel like in the streaming age, that show would be huge. It was really like a big deal when it was on all those years ago. I feel like if you brought back, honestly, the same show, and even if we can't get Sean Astin, maybe we can get like Jeff Goldblum or something. I don't know. But my whole idea being that in the streaming
the world
age,
in which you live, that Astin is a harder get than Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum is doing those like homes.com commercials now. Like, I think get him.
He's got all the offers. Astin's like, somebody call. Somebody.
I absolutely. And I just feel like something like that, it would be unique. It would probably have some really viral moments, because I remember the contrast between there would be really funny moments on the show. There would be like genuinely sad moments on the show, and they would leave you on a cliffhanger every week, like a drama, like a soap opera. I just think that in the era now where we're sharing everything online, of course, with streaming, of course, with just being able to share clips and everything, I think it would be huge. And if they could just revisit something like that, it could either be the meerkats again, only because their dynamic of how they operate is just made for drama. But if there's another animal that operates in a similar manner, like I'm open to that too. But I just think that they need to do something like that again. And maybe I'm just out of the loop because we hardly watch cable these days. It just kind of shows where we're at of like, if we're watching cable, it's because we're watching sports. But I just think that this would be the biggest opportunity. I wrote on my notes, biggest idea, because I think Meerkat Manor revival would be the number one thing to get people, kind of jazzed up about Animal Planet again.
Well, listen, Micah, listen. Thanks for coming in. We love your ideas. We'll get back to you. We really appreciate the meeting. Thank you. It just reminds me of one of those meetings I take at Sony where I'm like, what was your name? Simon? Oh, thank you for coming in and spending 2 hours talking about, you really need to make the Sweet Tooth video game and it's all about his family. And let me tell you the narrative. And I'm just like, oh my God, dude, you're going to save Warner Brothers by Meerkat Manor. I think that is ballsy, my friend.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You need your parking validated?
Yes. Because the thing is, when I was a kid, I wrote songs about the show. Oh, yeah. I was obsessed with it when I was a child. All right. I wrote my own original songs for it. My sister and I would discuss it week to week. It was the idea that it was relatively family appropriate. There was some animal violence. Okay. There was an episode where one of the meerkats murdered a bunch of other meerkats. It was a little scary. But the general idea that this was something the whole family could watch while also being pretty thrilling and pretty exciting. I just think it's a unique, market for them to get back into.
Can I actually comment though on what you were saying about some of that briefly? Because what's interesting to me when you're talking about like vicariously living through like the TV House Hunters and all that stuff. Just last night I was watching on YouTube. I like cozy mansions, which is they're really hard to find because mansions usually denote, it's not cozy. It's not like a hobbit hole. But I love on the rare occasions I can find a hobbit house, but it's a big fucking hobbit house, but with YouTube or the internet in general, TikTok, what have you, I wonder if that's not part of the problem, which is like, and I struggle with this with my own little small YouTube channel, which is like, oh, I'll do a 2-hour show on games. But deep down, I know it's like, what am I doing this 2-hour show for? I know that there's people who only want this part of that 2-hour show. And shouldn't I just fucking make that part? Right. And so it's kind of like, House Hunters or whatever, or Say Yes to the Dress. What you really want is the third act. You want to see the dress that cost over $5 million. Let me just YouTube that. Right. So I almost wonder if maybe part of the challenge is how do you communicate that same stuff you're talking about, but do it with more of that kind of watch behavior in mind? Because I saw a stat this week that said YouTube on television is actually getting more than Disney Plus, Netflix in terms of like their viewership. Most people get their content now on TV compared to those streaming services through YouTube. And we do it here as well. We just turn on YouTube at night on Apple TV and we're watching that as much as we're watching a show on, Hulu.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I was speaking directly from my own experience of, just as an example,
I know.
I genuinely loved House Hunters when I was younger. And even now, I live in a house. I'm very, I love our house. I'm very lucky that just Colin already owned this house. But I never got to do the House Hunter thing. And even I like watching them walking through the house and like making the decision because it's genuinely something I don't think I'll ever do. It's just a part of life that I don't think I'll ever get to do, that where you go check out houses and pick one. It's just not something I had to do. And it's one of those things of like, but you're right, of some people just want to see the homes. Maybe we have a show where it's just house tours. Maybe it's called Open House.
They have it already. It's on the internet, though, is what I'm saying.
I know, but we got to get it. We just got to make HGTV a little more relevant again. Because I'm with you. You can find anything on YouTube, but the quality. All right, the House Hunters narrator. That's what we're there for. The Antiques Roadshow narrator. All right, fair. She's better than anybody that you'll find on YouTube.
Look, Sean Astin's available to do narration, is what I hear.
Exactly. So I'm with you. I'm with you that we got to modernize some of these ideas in the age of YouTube, especially. But that's where the quality comes in. Like a show that is on television should be, in theory, higher quality than YouTube. That's where we got to hook people in. Because absolutely, you can just go watch open houses on YouTube.
That's not what they watch for. I mean, I'm serious. Yeah. Look at Last Stand Media. Last Stand Media is well produced, but you guys don't have fancy sets and stuff. But I can name a number of fancy set video game content, news shows and analysis shows that don't do as well. So I don't know if I would agree. Like Jeffrey Katzenberg lost a shit ton of money on, what was that thing called? Not Tubi, but it was like the shorts for YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I remember exactly what you're talking about. I'll look that up. I know exactly what
and they were going out and they spent a lot of money on basically going, hey, you know what? Let's make these shorts that people like on YouTube, but let's do it with really high production value.
Quibi.
And it's
I've never heard of it.
QUIBI.
Right. Yeah. It came and went, But I think it's, here's what I think it's fascinating because being here when this landscape is changing, that we came up with, like for you've got those cable experiences. I have the 3-channel and PBS experiences, right? And it has been so much fun and interesting to watch how it shifts. I won't say anything else except one thing I have to comment on the Honey Boo Boo thing. So my brother was a assistant producer or associate producer on the group that made some of those shows, including I think Toddlers and Tiaras. And he quit eventually because he said when they came in one day and they were so happy that the on the set crew came back and they said, oh, we got a couple of the kids to cry and everybody was high-fiving and shit. Like, it's like that was a win for them. And I get it. It's dramatic, but he was like, and to his credit, and I'm proud of him for doing it, but you're only as faithful as your options, I guess. But he's like, I can't do this. So as much as I love that stuff, you got, so much of that comes from a place of just such cruel, be mean to these kids and shit, Did you see that Dan Schneider documentary about Nickelodeon?
No, I wanted to watch it. I'd like to watch that.
Anyway, okay, go.
No.
Sorry. Back to Warner Brothers. I have my Hulk here. My Hulk reminds me, just don't fucking interrupt. All right, go.
No, you're totally fine.
I know, but I'm trying to get better.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mike, are you done with your presentation?
Please tell me you're not done, Mike. That's how you're going to save that? No. It's a huge company.
Well,
keep going.
I did have the only other idea, and I won't. Here's what I wrote. Go wake up David Attenborough and put him in a submersible. He's going to make a new documentary about some fish or something.
He'll die down there. He'll die down there faster than the Titan. What are you talking about?
We got to give Discovery Channel the edge that it used to have. Yeah. All right. My Nana and I, we used to watch Discovery and like National Geographic all day. We'd be cheering on the lions when they were hunting zebras. Sometimes she would root for the antelope and sometimes she'd root for the lion. I never knew what side she was on. But we were hyped about animal type shows and documentaries. All right, give me some March of the Penguins type shit. I'm just saying we gotta get David Attenborough. We gotta raise the stakes. All right, and that'll get people to watch.
I'm gonna look up how old David Attenborough is.
Old, but legendary, of course, just absolutely legendary. Get Simon Shamma in there too.
He's 98 years old.
Yeah, he's too old.
All right. You're never too old.
To be in a submersible?
I'm not saying we get like a submersible run by an Xbox controller, but just let James Cameron do it. He knows what he's doing.
Thin that he would get like 2 feet below the surface and he would just implode. The pressure on his little bird bones that have no marrow left in them would just snap like a Slim Jim. Goodness. Anyway.
All right. It was interesting to hear what you guys all had to say. It's different than what I have to say, which is, and maybe goes a little bit against the grain of what Jaffe was saying about the popularity of streaming services and all of the rest. But I just think that they're in like an unwinnable position because the competitors that they're dealing with are getting better and better and savvier and solidifying themselves more and more. Your Netflix's, Amazon Prime is permanent because of Amazon's, ability to proliferate its physical products, and you just kind of want Prime for delivery. So you're going to have this thing. It's going to be very valuable forever. Apple Plus, I think Apple recently cut back on Apple Plus investment because it's not doing as well. But I also feel like their less is more approach is great, and their quality level, from my experience, is highest per capita. And so they should focus on that, even higher than I think HBO in a lot of sense. But here's what I was thinking as I was going through the brands and trying to figure out this thought exercise was, what have they done that has actually been good? And the answer is, or let me back up and say, because HBO is good, you know, Discovery can be good. These things can be good, but like, what is like running full steam? What looks excellent under their stewardship? And the answer really is nothing. As I was like writing down the things that they own, it's like DC. I don't understand like why it's so hard for them to get this right, especially because in some ways they're not obviously anywhere close to putting out the first superhero movies. But when you think about Batman 89 and Batman Returns, and then you think about the Nolan Batmans, like they were kind of at the forefront of both the revival of doing kind of a campy but serious and high budget Batman and superhero thing. And then Nolan really, these were films really for the first time, like proper films, award-winning movies with wonderful performances and all these kinds of things. And they just blew it. It's so embarrassing when you look at like the situation DC is in with such powerful characters and representation. They might get one movie right here or there, but none of it coalesces into anything meaningful. And I know that from the outside, so I can only imagine how frustrating it is for people that are fans of the brand, you know, Superman and Batman and the Justice League and all these kinds of things. I could give a shit. I'm sorry, go ahead.
They do have Joker now, which is like very prestigious, and the Batman. I know you didn't like it. I wasn't a huge fan of it myself, but those are two movies that are like hugely successful, both getting sequels pretty soon.
I will say I liked the Batman. I just thought it was too long, like way too long.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
You know,
yeah, it was.
I was like, oh my god,
Superman just wrapped filming this week with James Gunn. They say, you know.
So I want them to like, I'm looking at this brand and I'm like, I want them to like get it. You got to get it right continuously. The way Marvel got off the ground with the MCU is by being consistent. They're not movies for me, but they're clearly movies for a lot of people. And I know that they're under a lot more siege now than they were back in the day, but DC's never even had that halcyon day, you know, of like 10 years or something of really solid performance. And then I look at, and this is closer to home for us, but WB Games is fucked. It's so strange. The biggest thing when I was reading that CNBC piece that I shared with you guys that came to my mind was I was like, they're divesting and looking to sell things off. I'm like, you literally just bought a studio 2 weeks ago. And now you're saying, nah, we don't really know what we want to do with this family. And we're going to license all of our stuff out. It's like, what are you doing? You know, why are you buying a studio in a high interest rate environment? Kind of, it's like there's no planning. It's like it's totally schizophrenic back and forth nonsense. And the thing that really bothers me about WB Games is that they have had two of probably what I would say and I wouldn't know exactly what the five were. We could probably go through it, but two of the five biggest single player centric games of the last few years by far in Hogwarts Legacy and Lego Star Wars. And their instinct with that was to make multiplayer games and go into games as a service instead of saying, like, I would have seen the pre-orders of Hogwarts Legacy and be like, we're absolutely greenlighting a Hogwarts Legacy 2, like, of course. Lego Star Wars, it's like, how can we really get this Lego machine going like it used to again and really pick up? Instead, they explore all these strange ideas. Everything is so backwards and stupid. And you were bringing up, Jaffe, the licensing stuff, which is interesting, but they're making these decisions now for games that will now come out in the 2030s. It's like, it's too late, you know, and I go down the list. Cartoon Network blew it. Can't believe the fall of that network. And and I know that somewhat better than most, probably because of Dagan and hearing him over the last few years talk about how this is really devolving into craziness over there.
They just closed the website today.
Yeah,
really?
It's crazy. I mean, it's cartoon. If you 20 years ago, 25 years ago, if you were to shake out and say, like, what were the biggest 8 or 10 cable networks, Cartoon Network would be a dominant titan amongst those.
Absolutely. I mean, some of my favorite shows as a kid, just to say briefly, like, some of my absolute favorite shows as a kid, my sister and I still quote to this day, were things that were on Cartoon Network, and watching it just get worse and worse. Watching children's television in general just get worse and worse as it really became clear that networks just started churning out slop. Because they're like, the kids will watch it. It doesn't have much staying power. So you put it out, and whether you ever air it again or not. I just remember seeing some of like the worst television ever when I was in high school. It was on Cartoon Network, and just being like, this is just one of the worst things I've ever seen. And it's not that it wasn't made for me. It's that it was just terrible. And it's just like the quality is gone.
It's a bummer. I mean, they blew it. You know, like why couldn't Cartoon Network have been Crunchyroll? Why not? I mean, why couldn't they have gone and been aggressive around the world and getting content and spinning off something that powerful? Cartoon Network. I mean, it was a seminal name. And then I brought up CNN earlier. Like CNN sucks. And again, I'm not saying this from a partisan perspective. It sucks. It's bad. I don't agree with MSNBC, and I think it's crazy partisan, but they know what they're doing over there. And I think the difference between CNN, MSNBC, and Fox is when Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox, what happened? He became even more famous, had even more reach, made even more money. We were talking about this recently in another context. And I was talking about Rachel Maddow on the other side has so much power and money at MSNBC that she barely appears on the shows anymore. And they've basically bought her to just kind of appear sometimes. And they pay her more than ever because these people can leave and do their own thing. But people at CNN, and you can see this through Don Lemon and the guy that used to do Reliable Sources, Brian Stelter, and the brother of the old governor of New York and everything. These guys are irrelevant now that they're not at CNN. Everyone is holding on for dear life there. That place sucks. They have no one. They have nothing. That was a blown opportunity. It's, again, not about its partisanship or lack thereof. It's about it just not being a cogent product. CNN was a deeply cogent product. It was MSNBC and Fox News that were founded to compete with CNN. And now CNN was the first of its kind. So again, it just, not that it was always with them, but it has been for a long time and they blew it. And then the TNT NBA thing is a disaster because that it shows that even though I think there was parity in dollars offered and whatever, that the NBA itself knows that the winning move is to go with one of the streaming services. So I say all of this to kind of put into line what I think should happen is that they should start selling this stuff off and unwind because they cannot compete in any of these places anymore. The competition is too staunch. The IP, while they have is compelling, has been mismanaged, and these things would be in better hands with others. So when you look at DC, it's like, I actually wonder if this would be an antitrust thing, but it's like, what if Disney bought DC? You know?
Oh.
I do wonder like how that would be looked at, but I was thinking of that. Max, now this is the biggest drop ball, and I've said this on Sacred Symbols many times and made fun of it many times. You have to be fucking retarded to have a brand like HBO. And then say, yeah, we're just going to kind of like marginalize that brand. It's very similar to what you were saying before, Jaffe, about like them dumping all this shit onto Max and all this. And I was wondering, and this makes me feel a little stupid, but I was like, where did this Max come from?
From Zaslav.
Right, but I think it's drawn perhaps from Cinemax, which they also own.
Oh, you mean why did they call it Max?
Right.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now. It is the Cinemax logo.
Right. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you guys are so dumb that you own HBO and Cinemax, which you found at the time. They've owned Cinemax forever. And then you were like, nah, we'll name it after Cinemax. You know? It's like, what the fuck are you doing over there? And everyone's like, well, HBO is home box office. It's not really like that anymore. I'm like, dude, IGN was Imagine Games Network in the mid 90s. MSNBC, Microsoft NBC, National Broadcasting Corporation. No one knows that. No one cares because that's not what it is anymore. Sometimes names just stick around and you use them. So everything should have been under the HBO banner, all of it. And that would have brought it. That's HBO has almost unshakable prestige for 40 years. I mean, they were founded in 1980. They really started getting going with like original content in the late 80s, early 90s. A lot of it was like kind of a very early reality.
Arliss and shit.
Right.
Remember? Yeah.
And then I was telling Micah recently about Arliss, like, which was like one of the first kind of hit shows it had. And then of course, really The Sopranos, Oz, all of that stuff, The Wire getting off. And then now you're off to the races. It's like, Jesus, dude, like, why don't you guys understand anything? And so to me, it's like, it's almost unfixable. If you don't understand how to manage this stuff, if you really don't understand that when Hogwarts Legacy sells 20 million copies, that you should invest heavily in single player gaming and all of that, when you buy a studio and then 2 weeks later say like, we don't know if we're going to license these guys out.
Who did they buy recently?
Player First, the guys that do multiverses.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, which was weird in and of itself because in the core console space, no one's buying anything anymore because it's the rates are too high. It's like and things are too dangerous. Things are failing too much. It's very strange. It's almost like when I watch it's how I feel about watching the Trump campaign, where it's like, do you guys know how to do anything right? Why are you making it so difficult for yourself? And I feel that way about the WB, where I'm like, why don't you just understand the series of assets you have, how to deploy them? And that's why I believe the licensing thing is, it's like, just go all the way and start selling this stuff. Recoup your money, pay the investors back, pay off your debts, and maybe reduce Warner Brothers as a name back to just a movie studio and start again. I implore
let me
people.
ask you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, I implore people to, again, go look at the corporate history of Warner Brothers. It is a fucking nonsensical entity. It doesn't even resemble in any way what it did 20 years ago. Nonetheless, 100 years ago, it's like unnatural and unholy. I'm telling you, like it doesn't belong together the way it is. And that's why it can't be run. So that's my whole thing, is like, just break it up, be done. Your competitors are going to eat you alive, and eventually they're going to pick your bones and get everything for cheaper. So yeah. THQ style. Anyway, Jaffe, what were you saying there?
Well, it's related to that, because you were talking about Crunchyroll, which got my head going on this. But I wonder, and I don't know this because I don't know this world, but it could be that if you're in these roles at this point, like whether you're talking about Amazon, but let's just stay with HBO Max, Warner Brothers, whatever, their content, and not just entertainment content, but what sits under the umbrella of HBO Discovery or whatever it's called, the main company, is so disparate that it's almost like you have to just look at it and go, my job is just to make money, right? So like the Crunchyroll idea, everybody here would go, that's a great idea. That would probably be profitable. But it's also the same way of when somebody tells Sony first party, it's like, you guys should just make like a AA, 2.5D God of War Metroidvania. And it's like, yeah, it might only cost you 30 million, but you'd make a nice tidy profit. And these companies of this size, with this much variety of stuff they have, a nice tidy profit is not what they're after. These guys are, the kaiju of business, right? They're not looking to sort of go, oh, we had a nice year, everybody gets a bonus. It's like, I want a new fucking planet to buy. And I don't mean that like I'm making a comment on greed. I mean, like, is it even possible for any of these companies, when you've got so many people that you're trying to appease, every decision you make has to be a fucking home run where the ball literally goes outside of the ballpark? It can't be doubles. And
well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Would be a double. I mean, or Cartoon Network is Crunchyroll might be a double, but that's nowhere near good enough.
Right. I think I totally agree with you. And I want to be clear, and I think you understand this, just for the audience, is like, I'm talking about them having done this with Cartoon Network 15 years ago. Not now, okay. Like, why couldn't it have been Crunchyroll? In other words, why does Crunchyroll even exist? Why didn't Cartoon Network aggressively go like, we're going to do something? We understand. We were we helped bring anime to the West.
Exactly. They had Toonami.
Right. Like, it's like, now people like my brother were watching anime long before Cartoon Network, but like, you had to go and buy fucking VHS tapes at Comic-Con that were illicitly copied from laser discs that some dude brought back or whatever. Like, they were the ones that got Dragon Ball became a phenomenon in the West because of Cartoon Network. I mean, that's what I'm saying, is like, if they had identified that and been like, okay, so we have all this access and we have this knowledge of what's going on, and then we're seeing what's going on with Netflix contemporary to what I'm saying, where they start going to a streaming platform in like 2008, 2009. It's like, that's the kind of vision you need. And that's kind of the point I'm trying to make with them. And I guess the point I'm making with all of these different brands is they've had no vision. In fact, they've had like negative vision. Everything is worse really than it was. It's crazy to me that they can look at an experience with like Marvel and Spider-Man and Insomniac and Sony and now come to the conclusion that they should start licensing Batman. It's like, where have you been? Like, you should have.
Okay. But can you answer though? Yeah, but can you answer though to the point of, because it applies to all of these companies. Now, I agree, Warner Brothers is the biggest mess of them all. But does anybody exist right now where you've got so many different products and masters to serve? You can't balance all those plates, right? I mean, maybe like when you're talking about, PlayStation, yes, it's part of Sony, but it's pretty siloed. It's not like they're calling Sony Music every week and going, what are you guys up to? They don't fucking know, I just wonder, is it just can any company be this big? Maybe the lesson is, yeah, HBO fucked it up spectacularly, but no company that makes creative content can work at this level. It's just not, and I'm not trying to hammer that home and say it over and over. I'm asking you practically, because you're saying sell off the assets. And I would agree. Is part of that because you don't see this ever working, no matter whose vision it is.
I just think they're too far behind the 8 ball. Like the competition isn't feeling around and trying to figure it out anymore. There's 6 or so powerful streaming entities. That is the future of all of their content, so that they don't have anything really wrapped up in there. Like I've said this many times in the past, but I've always felt like Hulu, where Hulu came from, was the best idea. And it was sad to see everyone divest from it slowly, because it was kind of an idea of like, what if we just kind of did this together and had like a mega subscription service, which would have ultimately turned into cable again. But everyone slowly was like, they got, to your point, got too greedy. NBC started spinning off, and Fox was like, maybe we'll do something different. And all these different companies that were at one time relying on each other to compete with Netflix, they all kind of did get too greedy. I believe that when a company goes public, regardless of how big it is, but usually those are bigger companies, it's like reason behind it fades, because it all becomes about feeding perpetual value. I've said many times in the past that though there are exceptions, of course, with high growth companies and everything, people don't buy stock to hold the stock. People buy stock to extract money out of the stock and then sell it later, or hold it forever and continue. Like, you're not just holding a stock generally and not getting anything out of it, you know, and people need to squeeze dividends and profit out of it to please shareholders. This is not a problem with smaller companies. And that's why I think some of the best run companies in the United States that are famously well run and efficient, like In-N-Out Burger or Chick-fil-A and stuff like that, like they're all private. You know, they have no master. And that's kind of a bummer. So I don't know. I know WB is obviously a storied name, but it is this unholy beast. And maybe what you're saying is true, Jaffe, about it being too big. But I actually think maybe even the bigger problem is that its competitors are so permanently big now and successful that being in the margins and flailing around is just insufficient. Like, it's just wildly insufficient when you're dealing with the likes of these companies that are massive.
Is there an obvious executive, if Zaslav goes, which I know people are suggesting, that you would replace him with? Does anybody come to mind?
I don't even presume to know. You know, I have no idea. I'm curious, like, why he has so much permanent staying power. But
one of the investors, I think his last name was Malone, in order to get this company, they had to borrow like 50 billion, 60 billion, whatever it was. And for whatever reason, that guy, maybe he came up with Zaslav at Discovery, but they're kind of attached at the hip. And he really felt that this was the guy. And since he had so much of the stock and was able to make the deal, because I guess he was a key part of that multi-billion-dollar deal, it sounds like he was the guy that really sort of ushered him in as this is the guy to do it. But that's my layman's understanding of why he's in that role.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, there's always some sort of reason, because you can buy anyone out of anything or push anyone out of anything with the board. It's like, so there's always like some sort of political, it's Machiavellian. It's like, it's crazy. Corporatism at this level is cutthroat and crazy. I would never want any part of that world. I couldn't even imagine. And the amount of stress, I think about that with what's the guy from Embracer? Why can't I think of his name that everyone makes fun of all the time?
I don't know, but I know you're the CEO guy, right?
Oh yeah. Lars Wingsford. And I'm like, who are you? Like, how did you find yourself in this crazy ass position? You know, like, I don't envy you. It's your fault, but you are in a fucked position right now. This is orders of magnitude worse than that. Just on the
Bobby Kotick.
Bobby Kotick, dude. Bobby Kotick's gonna probably should
He's the devil, but he could turn this shit around.
Well, I was gonna say, I really feel like he's gonna be on. He's part of the group, as we had said on a recent show. He made so much money and had so much money, obviously, but made so much money from selling Activision to Xbox that they're courting ByteDance to sell TikTok to them. You know, so he might be back at the helm of a major company that's even bigger than Activision, which wouldn't be surprising.
I can't stand him, but he's a great executive. But he can go fuck himself. But he's a great executive.
He clearly knows what I mean. I don't know that. I would be curious to know like what the biggest return was on an initial investment in a company. He's got to be up there because he bought Activision for $500,000.
Yeah.
So That's no joke shit. Like, no joke. Can you imagine? You know, like
$500,000. And what did he sell it for? 72?
70. It was like $72 billion or something. God. It's like, okay. Well done, my friend. All right. Well, that was fun. Fun little thought exercise to kind of get moving. Thank you guys for humoring me. I know it's a very Colin topic. Michael, let's go to you next. I haven't heard from you in a while. I like your topic here.
All right. Well, yeah, the topic this week, I wanted to ask you guys, what is your song or songs of the week? And my premise to this is just that I constantly have something rattling around in the back of my mind. Like, I always have background music playing in my head. It switches up week to week, usually based on my mood or what's going on, or, oh, I went down a YouTube rabbit hole, so now I'm obsessed with Phil Collins this week. Like, it's just one of those things that there's always a song playing or a couple different songs. And I was curious what you guys had going on your, personal soundtracks this week. Mine, I just have a short list of 3. All right. The first one, and this has happened completely by accident, Blue by Eiffel 65. Because I was watching a Game Grumps compilation and they were making fun of the intro to the song, the yo, listen up, here's a story. And I was like, that can't be how it actually went. Because I hadn't heard the song literally in 10 years or more, probably. I can't think the last time I heard it. And I said, that can't actually be how it sounds. And it was. And then I just got obsessed with it, though. And I found myself listening to it on repeat. I found myself writing little ditties about the dog based on it. And it has just been stuck in my head all week. It really scratched the nostalgia center of my brain for a few different reasons. A, because I was a kid and it was on the radio constantly. And I loved the song when I was a kid. I just remember I thought this is fucking music. Okay. And then also I remember distinctly the satanic panic around that song in my own community. This is, pre-internet for me, which in a way made the urban legends even more sinister because you're hearing this firsthand from a friend, right? I remember my mom having a conversation with a friend, in town, and the lady was telling her that, at her church, they're not allowed to listen to the song because they think it's demonic and that the guy's talking about dying and all this stuff. And if you play it backwards, and these people, this was the local Baptist church, I think, not my own church. And they were totally up in arms about the song, wanted to boycott it, can't be played on the radio. It was a whole thing. And I just remembered that and just remembering that feeling of when urban legends were even creepier, because you're not reading this on some Reddit forum and saying, oh, well, that's weird. You're hearing this from someone someone you believe to be sane, and they're telling you earnestly that this song is from the devil himself. And it just brought up all that nostalgia again, even for the weird part of it. The song is still a jam. I'm listening to it all week. It's still a fucking bop, but bringing back that kind of urban legend quality to it has been interesting, and just remembering all those things. The other song on my list, Piano Man by Billy Joel. Oh. I don't know, but I know what happened. Okay, there's a meme. There's this really funny meme. It's a squirrel and he's playing a piano, and it says, the caption, they sit at my bar and put nuts in my jar and say, squirrel, what are you doing here?
That's awesome.
And I think about that meme a lot. And then sometimes I'm like, I got to go listen to the song. And it's just so good. It's just such a good song. It's sad, but it has such a rockin' melody to it. I like things like that. Colin and I were talking about that recently, of songs that don't quite come off as sad, like What a Fool Believes by the Doobie Brothers. That's one that has such a really beautiful melody, but then you listen to the lyrics and you're like, it's fucking sad. Breakfast at Tiffany's by Deep Blue Something was another one Colin mentioned to me of this song is sad, but I remember singing it as a
Pumped
kid.
Up Kicks, come on now.
Oh my, yeah, there's a million songs like that. And I just always love that contrast. Piano Man has stood out to me this week because, it's a song about people that feel like they're wasting their lives away. They feel like they're not going anywhere. They're reminiscing about better times. They just want to get away for a while, replace their troubles for a bit with the music at this bar. And it's just I don't know, deceptively upbeat and catchy melody to these lyrics that are really sad when you sit and listen to them. And it also is just one of those things that I have been, this isn't like sad, but it's just about growing up, I guess. I have been actively trying to improve my wardrobe. I realize that when I do want to dress up, I don't have like dressy clothes. I still will always be a t-shirt and jeans person. But when I want to dress up, I realize you don't even own a pair of dress shoes, for example, because when I stopped working my office job, I stopped replacing things as they wore out. I used to have a grown-up wardrobe and I had dress shoes and things, but when I started working from home, I stopped replacing things as they got holes in them, as they got tattered. And I said, oh, all you have is play clothes, basically. You've been invited to a nice dinner and you just don't have anything suitable to wear. So I'm trying to do that, and this song just has kind of stuck out to me because there's a line in the song where this old man had said something about when I wore a younger man's clothes, and just acknowledging the way you change as you age. That's been on my mind a lot as I am trying to grow up ever so slightly, being 31, trying to dress a little more my age, trying to look a little more polished like some of my peers do. We go to a restaurant and I kind of look around and I'm like, I want to look like that lady. You know, I don't want to look like that just to go to the grocery store, but I'm trying. But it's also a little bit sad to acknowledge that I don't want to dress the way I did when I was in my 20s. You know, it's a little sad to acknowledge that I do recognize I'm getting older. I want to present myself a little differently as I get older. And that's just been really sticking out to me as well. The last song on my list is, this song's really important to me, and it's been stuck in my head for months, but this past week especially, I've been listening to it a lot. This song's called Danny Don't You Know by Ninja Sex Party. Ninja Sex Party is a comedy duo. It's Dan Avedon and Brian Wecht. But this is one of their really heartfelt songs. It's rare that they do a song like this, but this is one of their songs that you listen to it and it feels like it was written just for you. It's Dan writing a letter to himself about being an awkward kid, about not fitting in, about not having your own sense of style yet. But the message of the song is like, but don't you know you're cool on the inside? And it just really resonates with me, even as an adult. It's one of those things that it feels like you wish you could have heard that when you were younger type deal. And I actually remember the first time I heard it, because I wasn't expecting it at all. I'm listening to the album and it's mostly these silly, funny songs. Like they're an improv duo. That's what they do. And I get to this one and I was just like sobbing in traffic because it was just like so unexpectedly emotional and sincere. And the song has a lot of funny moments in it. And like the music video is funny. But it just caught me so off guard that this was
what's it called again? That song? It's called what?
Oh, it's called Danny Don't You Know.
Okay.
And actually, Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things is in the music video, which is pretty cool. But it was just like so unexpectedly genuine and heartfelt. And it's just one of those things, like that song is like, I listen to it if I'm having like a really bad day type deal. It still gets me like misty eyed to think about it. But that's another one that's been really kind of rattling around in my brain this past week, because I still do acknowledge that I feel like the awkward kid. The majority of my life, I still kind of feel that way. And it's one of those things I don't know if it ever truly goes away. Even if you learn to like yourself, as I have, even if you learn to say like, yeah, I like the way I am just fine. I like being a nerd. It doesn't matter if people ever made fun of it. But I think that still kind of sticks with you, no matter how old you get. So that's
There's some great lyrics in here. I'm looking at it right now. And I get why it would move you.
Well, yeah. And there are things that are so specific. Dan, has like big curly poofy hair. And that's like one of the lines in the song acknowledging like, oh, your hair is wild and you have no style. And that was the one that like had me sobbing. Because when I was younger, I hated having curly hair. And I hated how I felt so different from all the other kids. And I remember thinking, I wish I just had pretty hair like all the other girls. And it took me years to get over that. So that song is like super important to me. And it's just one that in my list this week, between Blue and Piano Man and that song, this has been a week of nostalgia and sadness, I suppose. But that's what I had in my list. I want to kick it over to you, Locke. What Euro trash songs do you have bopping around in your brain this week?
Well, it's funny that you brought up Billy Joel, because he's very important to me. He was my dad's favorite artist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and last year, I think at the end of last year or at the start of this year, he released a new song called "Turn the Lights Back On." And ever since he released that song, I have that on repeat almost 24/7.
Have you seen the video?
Yes, I was just getting to that. Yeah, it's one of my favorite video clips ever made. It's so beautiful. It does use AI, so maybe it's not very popular here. But what they do in that music video is so cool. Like, they go back to his youth while he sings this song, and they basically depict him how he looked like in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and then we get to now. It's a really sad song because it's about him. And his career, basically, and the love he lost, and it's really sad, but it's also really uplifting. And it always reminds me of my dad, because I remember my dad used to sing "Moving Out" all the time. Every Saturday morning when I woke up, that's the song he was singing.
That's one of my favorite Billy Joel songs. I love that song. That's a great song.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, he used to sing that all the time. That was one of his favorite songs too. Or "Honesty," or "She's Always a Woman." My dad loved Billy Joel. So he only took me to a concert once when I was like 16 or 17. So I couldn't really appreciate it back then. But yeah, I love Billy Joel. So it's really funny that you brought that up. But what I usually listen to during the week, when I listen to music, I work a lot, so I get stressed a lot during the week. So when I listen to music, I need to listen to music that calms me down. When I was in school or in college or whatever, or in my 30s, I used to listen to, I love The Offspring or Bad Religion or Green Day. That was the music I listened to. But I can't really listen to that music anymore because it makes me stressful now. It amps me up too much, makes me nervous. I don't know why, but it's very annoying because I still love that music. So what I listen to now, it's very corny perhaps, but I listen to the Braveheart soundtrack almost every week.
As one
almost
does.
every week.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but the Braveheart composer, James Horner, he composed a lot of movies, but the two movies that I listen to all the time are Braveheart and Legends of the Fall. Mm-hmm. And I don't particularly like Legends of the Fall. I love Braveheart, but the soundtracks for those movies always calm me down. And I think they calm me down because they bring me back to a time when life was simple, when I was a kid. And I remember those movies, we had them on VHS, and my brothers were always watching them, or my sister was always watching Legends of the Fall. So that music somehow always calms me down. So those are the two soundtracks I play every week for years, actually. But I also edit a lot, and for my edits, lately I've been trying to play this little game where I can circumvent the YouTube copyright when it comes to music. So what I like to do is I like to find a popular song. Lately I've been doing this with Creed a lot. So I find popular Creed songs, and I find like piano tutorials of people playing those songs on piano without vocals, just the music itself. And then I try to fit those into my edits to see if YouTube detects them. And sometimes YouTube does, but sometimes YouTube doesn't. And it's always a fun little game to see if I can get away with it. I just did it today with a song from, what's it called? The Seal song. Like the
Kiss from a Rose.
Kiss from a Rose, yeah. I got away with that one. But I didn't get away last week when I did it with Sweet Child of Mine. That one somehow got struck anyway. But I love doing that. And I also love using the same technique, but with medieval covers. There's this YouTube channel who takes like modern music, but puts it in like a medieval style. So they have like a Rasputin or the Numa Numa song or the Final Countdown, but they make it like with medieval instruments, which is very fun if you're awesome. Like editing if you're like editing like a video game, a review for like a fantasy game or something. I always use that music because it fits so well and it's so funny, and YouTube doesn't really recognize it, which is good. And then there's another YouTube channel, which I always go to when it comes to music, and it's Postmodern Jukebox. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. Postmodern Jukebox basically takes current songs and makes them new in a way that like they make like My Heart Will Go On. They make it like into a 60s song, or they take Burn and they make it like in an 80s song. So they transform songs from current day songs into older variants, which is very cool to me. I love that.
Oh, they're a band. They're not you're not saying they're like a AI program. It's a band.
No. It's an actual band. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
They're very famous in Europe, maybe not in the US, but on YouTube, they're huge too. I think they have like millions of followers. Of course, all their songs do have copyright, so I can never use those, sadly. But I'm also very susceptible to hearing music in movies. So last week, I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine, which I absolutely loved. Great movie. But they used Madonna's Like a Prayer in that movie a lot. So now I'm hooked to that song. I have it playing all the time when I wake up because it makes me happy. Reminds me of that movie. And the movie ends with Green Day, Good Riddance. And like I explained earlier, when I play a Green Day song, it amps me up too much. It makes me stressful. But for some reason, Good Riddance always makes me very sad. I think maybe that's the point of the song, maybe. But I love that song too. So before I go to sleep, I always end my day with Good Riddance. And that calms me down and it makes me a little bit sad, but it makes me ready to go to sleep. And other than that, I also really love Rachel Portman. I don't know if you guys know who that is. She's like a female composer, and she makes movie soundtracks for The Cider House Rules, Oliver Twist, Mona Lisa Smile, Emma. But her soundtracks, unlike James Horner for Braveheart, are very uplifting. I think, Colin, the first ever video I made of you, like the Avocado Gate video, used music from her.
Oh, awesome!
She's so funny. I love her. Yeah, she's great. And other than that, the last one I have is the Baldur's Gate 3 soundtrack. It's so calming. It's so beautiful. It's a beautiful game too. So yeah, I really need music these days to calm me down, and it works wonderfully. If music can transport me back to a time where I was happier or calmer or less stressful, that always helps me. So yeah, I love music.
No, that's a really cool list. I completely agree with you on even like bands that I really love. Sometimes I don't listen to them because of the way it affects my mood. My all-time favorite band is AFI, but a lot of their stuff is depressing. Just a lot of sad songs. And there are just times when I say, I just can't do this today. Like if I'm not in a really happy mood, it's just going to bring me down. I need to be in a good enough mood that this sad song can just be appreciated for being beautiful and not make me feel like I'm wallowing in sadness. So as much as I love them, like my favorite, bands being like AFI and like Good Charlotte, but the number of sad songs in their catalog just mean that I don't listen to it a lot these days. They're still really important to me, but it's not the vibe that I'm going for. Like, it's just not how I want to feel in my daily life is like, I can't do this today. Just admitting that it was at times making me more sad. And I just couldn't deal with that all the time.
Yeah, I get that completely, yeah.
It's also funny, though, just a funny coincidence that you mentioned Good Riddance, because that was an honorable mention on my list. And it's been on my mind because our oldest nephew going away to college soon. And I just am remembering high school graduation and people playing that song and also the graduation song by Vitamin C, on repeat. And everybody was using that in like their Facebook photo compilation videos. And it's just like, it adds a new layer of sadness for me to be like, oh, my nephew, my not so little nephew going away to college. And I'm just like, oh my God, like that song, I had been listening to that one as well. And just thinking about him in that regard of like, man, oh man, this was the big song for graduation. And it probably still is. I hope the kids are still listening to that. I don't know if they're still using Vitamin C's, graduation day song anymore, but
I quoted Sunscreen to my kid the other day and he's just like, what is that? The Baz Luhrmann graduation song? So they probably got their own at this point. I don't know.
I know the graduation song in 15 years will be Skibbity Toilet or whatever. Like that'll be it. Colin, let me hear from you, my dear husbando. Tell me, what song has been rattling? See, often I have an inclination as to what's been rattling around in your head anyways, because you're either playing it on the drums or I hear you listening to it while you exercise. But let me know specifically what you got going on this week.
Yeah, Micah is very patient because I play drums. They're incredibly loud. Like, this is an instrument. I didn't appreciate how loud it was when I was a kid and how much patience my parents had to have for me to have played this instrument, for them to have bought me one and like believe that I could play. So I really appreciate that. And I'm always apologizing. And she always tells me I don't need to apologize. And I'm like, I appreciate that, but it is annoying. It's fucking loud. And for people that ask, like, why don't you play electric drums? It's because, like, I'm not a pussy. I don't play electric drums. I'm only kidding. I like electric drums fine. They're fine. They're just, you can never replicate the feel of even the finest electric drums I've ever played are distinguishable from acoustic drums. So I would never, I don't want to play electric drums. I'm also not Phil Collins. I'm not Josh Freese and, playing all this 80s shit. I'm not doing it. So I appreciate that. And I thank you for that. But the other thing that I subject her to is I listen to music really loud when I work out. We have a home gym, and so we have like this, you walk into our house and there's a room directly to your left, and it's supposed to really be like a home office perhaps, or like a playroom or something. I don't really know. But we just put all our workout equipment in there, and ultimately it became like the gym. And I have my speaker in there, which is like so old at this point. I have this Bluetooth speaker that, not for nothing, like my girlfriend in 2011 or something bought me, and just never. It's a Bose speaker. It's SoundLink V2, I think. So it's like the second one they ever made, and for some reason it just still works. So
it still sounds great.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I don't know, I'll fucking use this thing until it stops working. It's all rusted out and all fucked up because it's been in like the workout environment, all this. And I just blast music like maximally loud in there. So she definitely hears what I'm doing in there. And I do apologize for that as well. But it's the only way I can get through my workout sometimes, is to just blast fucking 311 into my ears. But I thought an interesting way to answer this question would actually be to look at songs that I specifically added to I have a master playlist. Everything goes onto the master playlist. And then I just pick through that. I don't have like these sub playlists like, oh, rock and all that. I'm like, no, everything's on there. And then I thought it would be interesting to go through what I've specifically searched for recently as well, to add to the playlist, or to just listen to at a one-off. So a song that's been in my head and that I've listened to a lot recently, and you'll know this, Micah, is Peter Gabriel's "In Your Eyes." Mm-hmm. I like Peter Gabriel. I specifically like some of like a little bit of the older stuff. I think Salisbury Hill or whatever. But what like his 80s stuff is. His mid 80s stuff is really strong too. I think "In Your Eyes" is 86-ish, and obviously came to prominence in "Say Anything," which was 89. But it's not a song I typically listen to very much. And it's one of those songs I listen to. It's funny you brought up Seal's "Kiss from a Rose," because I feel this way about that song, where I'm like, this is such an amazing production. This is like a really great song. Is it run into the ground? Yes. And Seal's "Kiss from a Rose" is one of those songs where like, this song is thoroughly run into the ground. But that song every second of that song is superb. I also feel that way about "Drops of Jupiter" by Train, which I've said many times in the past, where I'm like, this is just a really sick song. And just like endlessly playable on a spectrum of rock stations and easy listening stations and whatever the case might be. So "In Your Eyes," I've been listening to a little bit, which is great. I
got to ask about that song real quick. Do you have, because I think we've talked about this on the show before. I believe it was the show where men tend to listen to the rhythm and the beat, and women tend to be more lyric centric. Mm-hmm. And I am more of a lyric guy, so take from that what you will. But do you have a lyric in that song "In Your Eyes" by Gabriel that's like your favorite lyric? Because I wonder if it's the same for most people.
I'd have to look up the lyrics to know the full breadth of them but it's funny you asked this, because I'm just looking it up to see what I did name it. Last week, I named Sacred Symbols after I often name, I'm sure people have realized this over the years, is that I often name Sacred Symbols just after lyrics for a song that I happen to be listening to at the time. And sometimes I don't know what I'm going to, it happened last night that I'm like, I'm not sure what the show is going to be called yet. I need to go work out and listen to music and find a title. And I did that way. So yeah, it was it? Was it? I guess it wasn't. Oh, "Days Pass and This Emptiness Fills My Heart" is the
interesting.
Is the title.
Interesting. Okay. Mine is, I'm looking at it too. Mine, it's so interesting because I love that, because it's such a window into the person that is yours. Mine is "All My Instincts, They Return." And yours is "Days Pass and This Emptiness Fills My Heart." And that's something, music's the coolest shit.
He's an amazing wordsmith, because I Salisbury Hill, obviously a very well known, maybe his most famous song. And that's about his, as I understand it, about his experience leaving Genesis. And it's a very deep song with a lot, like, I like watching his live performances too. There's something in the live performance of that from, I think, an early 90s performance where it's like haunting how good it is. And so yeah, that song's been in my head. This one I think you guys will find funny. The Pantera song Walk, which is like their most famous song from 1992. So this comes from, I saw, you get your For You tweets and it's like kind of algorithmic. And I find so many funny things in there. There's like so many funny shit in there. So much funny shit in there. And someone had tweeted out a video of Walk and said like, this is the most racist riff I've ever heard in my entire life. And I thought it was so funny because it is just like this deep dropped bar chord or whatever. And so Ramon and I have been kidding around, my friend Ramon, who's going to be here soon in the coming days, been kidding around about that. And that song just kicks ass. And R.I.P. Dimebag, you're missed, because he's the one that came up with that amazing riff. And then what else here? Oh, you know what? This is a funny one. Paul Davis, who was like kind of an obscure singer-songwriter from the 70s and into the 80s. He was like more of a country guy, and then he came back and did, and I just know this from reading about him, and then he came back and kind of was more poppy. He did a song called 65 Love Affair, and I'm like obsessed with that song. I secretly listen.
I remember that. When was this?
65 Love Affair is probably in like the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, it's like done 60. I can't sing, but you know.
He's like, rock and roll was simple and clear.
Yeah. Oh my god,
that song's been in my head. Like
fucking song.
That song kills. And then just a couple others. Stone Temple Pilots is like a top 5 band for me, so I've just been listening to a lot of their discography lately, and I play a lot of There are certain bands I gravitate towards on the drums. I've been playing more 311, but I've never really challenged myself to play 311 because it's difficult. Like, it's really, a lot of it is pretty difficult and very technical. I play a lot of like Rage Against the Machine, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Foo Fighters, and Stone Temple Pilots is another one of those bands. And so I've been listening to them a lot lately. I love them, specifically from their third record, Big Bang Baby, which was their lead track, their lead single on that third record. And of course, if you're not an STP fan, you got to listen to Purple. You got to listen to Core. Those are like absolutely amazing 90s records. And then Micah, you'll find this funny because this was happening. So Micah's parents were here a few days ago. By the way, when Micah's dad left, and he listens to the podcast. So when Micah's dad left, he ran over my flowers next to my mailbox. So thank you for that. Had these things go, just walk out and be like, what the fuck happened here? We ran over the lawn too, but that's less important to me than just destroyed these flowers. So shout out for that. But he listens to the show. So hope you enjoy this. So it was a Monday, and they had come in. They're kind of like traveling. They have Micah's family has like an annual like family gathering, like reunion sort of thing that I guess they go to, and then they kind of come see us on the way back. And so we went out to dinner with my mom and my stepdad and her parents, and so it was the 6 of us, and they were playing like banger after banger. It was like a very Colin. It was like grunge, post grunge. They must have just had like a station on that was perfect on Pandora. And I thought I like the band Live. I don't know if people remember the band Live.
Oh yeah.
Which is such an unfortunate name. What a stupid name. They couldn't have known that
it's impossible to find them.
Yeah, it's like so stupid. But
was that song, the Dolphins Cry?
Yeah, Dolphins Cry. That's a later song. Yeah. That's like a mid 90s, late 90s song. That's a good song though too. But I thought it was funny. I play a few of their songs on drums too and listen to them every once in a while. Their record, Throwing Copper, is an iconic song, but Selling the Drama is the specific song that I was listening to. And I was laughing to Micah. Everyone's like talking and we're kind of just like looking at each other. And I'm like, listen to what he's saying right now in the song, as like, everyone's eating their appetizers. And he's like, now we won't be raped. Now, like talk about how he's not being raped over and over again in that song. And I'm like, this is so awkward. Like, does anyone listening to what he's saying? And everyone's eating their fucking dip and their meatballs and all this kind of stuff. And I've been listening to that song a lot, Selling the Drama. And then finally, Jackson Browne, Somebody's Baby. Been listening. That comes in and out, and that's such a fucking banger of a song. That's from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I want to say. I think that's where it came from. So
that's where. Well, no, I mean, I think it was original, but
right. It's from that soundtrack though. Yeah, but it was on his record as well. Before that, yeah. So that's kind of been what's on my mind. But a lot of it is just like I'm looking at my drum playlist now, and it's just I listen to a lot of this stuff over and over again to play. So like recent songs are I've been playing "My Sacrifice" by Creed. Since you were talking about Creed earlier. I've been trying to learn. It's a little more complicated than it seems, but the song Kitty by the Presidents of the United States of America, if people remember that song from the mid-90s, fucking sick song. And still playing Brodels by 311 as I try to kind of ease into some of that stuff, create my own little pocket there. Plus tons of No Doubt's Tragic Kingdom record, which I just love.
Endlessly.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's probably annoying.
It plays 24/7.
Yeah. I specifically play the song Sunday Morning and the Tragic Kingdom title track like over and over again because they're fun.
That's the one that has spider webs, right?
Yeah, that's the first track on it. Yeah. That album is a seminal Colin record. Like I fell in love with that record when I was a kid, and so that's a fun record to play along with as well. So yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you hear the drum rolls a lot from Sunday Morning. Like,
oh no, I like hearing you play it. It's more so the only time I ever get annoyed because when it comes to music, I'm just like, yeah, play whatever you want. I love hearing Colin play the drums, like I genuinely do. The only time I get annoyed is sometimes Colin is in the gym and he will restart a song literally 5 times just to hear the intro again. And I do the same thing when I have headphones in, but it's like, if I hear that fucking drum roll one more time and I don't actually hear like when Stefani starts singing, I'm like, Colin, you got to stop. Like, I'll be like, sometimes I'll yell last one. Like, you get one more restart. You can't do this again. It'll be like a 311 song or something. And it's like some David Bowie jam, and I'm like, you can't restart it 6 times. You like, because you're getting me all amped up, and then it starts over again. I'm like, you gotta just let it roll. I'm trying
to hear something specific in it or something. Yeah, it is annoying. I'm sure. That's it.
It is funny just because we are together so often, and I almost always have headphones in, so you don't necessarily know what I'm listening to. But we do also share a lot of songs in common that we love. Stone Temple Pilots as well, you got me into. And we actually chose Still Remains as our cake cutting song at the wedding, for example.
Yeah,
so they've become very special to me. Another one, though, just as you were talking, and I was like, oh, yeah, what's in my recent Spotify searches? I have been listening to You Can Call Me Al by Paul Simon, like on repeat. And I don't know why it's just particularly pleasing to me this week. It's a song that used to play a lot at one of my old jobs, and I always liked it. But something this week it's another thing just about getting older, you know? And I think I'm just in that vibe this week. Ever since I turned 31 last month, I don't feel old. I don't mean it like that. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I am just acknowledging I'm in my 30s now. Like, I am not just 30, I'm in my 30s. It does feel like I am actually wanting to be slightly different, and I'm actually wanting to mature a little bit. And so some of these songs are just really hitting for me right now. Jaffe Cakes, you've been waiting over there, and I'm dying. I also want to point this out too. Do you guys not have songs just playing in the back of your head all the time? Because that was how I posed this, and that's literally how my mind works. There is at all times a song playing, and I just don't know if anyone else actually does that.
That's the thing. Yeah, go ahead, Jaffe.
No, well, before I get to my specific ones, I have to respond to a lot of these things you guys have been saying. So as songs in your head, I was talking to my kid about this yesterday because I've been playing a lot with Suno, and I sent you a song, and yes. I didn't know you were basing it off Blue. I just kind of figured, here's, and so I don't even think you guys can hear what I'm playing right now. This is not a license thing. It won't hit you guys, but let me see if can you guys hear this?
No.
So I literally just took Micah, love Sean Astin when he talks about meerkats and Encino Man, I will run the WB, fuck yeah. And it wrote me a song in pop punk in like 8 seconds, right? And it just spits out tons of these, right? But what's interesting about the AI stuff is that it's really good at creating earworms that do stick in your head. Because I've been using it for like transitions on my show and stuff. Like, it's now we're going to do video game news. And so I write a stupid fucking song that's like 4 lines and it's intentionally stupid. But it's like really fucking, it's not necessarily good, but it's so mathematical about what is an appealing melody or hook that the AI is just really good at creating those earworms. So I haven't played the Micah song yet fully because you guys can't hear it. I'll send it to you afterwards. But it's so that sticks in my head, and it's really fucking cool and disturbing and wonderful and cool and disturbing. Okay. Billy Joel. Billy Joel's the guy I've seen probably in concert more than any. I've probably seen the guy like 6 times. I love going to his shows. I haven't been to one in a long time. Piano Man specifically, I was like 40 when I realized that line, because all the lines are stories, and he says, Paul is a real estate novelist, never had time for a wife, and he's talking to Davey, who's still in the Navy and probably will be for life. And I'm like, oh, those are gay guys. Like, it never occurred to me until I was older. I'm like, oh, that's so clever, especially back in the 70s. You probably weren't going to go, Paul and Davey are sucking each other off in the parking lot. I'm saying it's very clever. Scenes from an Italian Restaurant is still my favorite Billy Joel. That fucking song is the shit.
Yeah, that's a good. I didn't know you guys were such spiritual Long Islanders. That's so good to know. Pressure is my favorite Billy Joel song.
That's a great song.
Such
too.
A different one.
And you're right, Lockmort, about Leave the Lights On. That fucking video, man. I mean, it's staggering because it looks like Billy Joel when he was, starting with The Stranger. And then I think it's one shot, right? Where the camera circles the piano and over that full 360 shot, he goes from like 23 years old to whatever he is now, like 72. It's wild. It's fucking wild. Jackson Browne, especially Micah, if you're kind of vibing with getting older, there's, I know Colin brought up Jackson Browne, but Doctor My Eyes and Running on Empty are excellent Jackson Browne songs that are very much kind of about that melancholy flavor feeling of aging. So I recommend the Gladiator soundtrack, Lockmort, if you haven't heard. I know you brought up Braveheart. I wrote a lot, or I designed a lot of the first God of War listening to that and Flash Gordon from Queen. But the Gladiator soundtrack is surprising because it seems like it's going to be this crazy action soundtrack, and there are moments where it is, but it's actually this beautiful Hans Zimmer and this woman, I forget what her name is, with this kind of just like almost like Enya like meets Hans Zimmer. It's just very relaxing and very emotive, and it's good stuff. And the Starfield soundtrack is the shit. I don't usually listen to game soundtracks, but that soundtrack is delightful. As for me, I discovered a band this summer on Instagram called Lawrence the Band from New York. And it's a brother and sister duo. Well, not duo. There's like 8 of them, but it's led by a brother and sister duo. And he sounds like Joe Cocker and she sounds like Aretha Franklin, but they're both these white 23-year-olds. It's the craziest fucking thing, but their music is very bright, poppy, bubbly, but it's not poppy like Taylor Swift. It's more like 80s, like people compare them to like Huey Lewis. So they've got a couple of songs, Guy That I Used to Be, and what's the other fucking song? What You Want is what it's called. And they're going to be on Jimmy Fallon this week, actually, or next week. And they're excellent. They're fucking, you're like, my God, they can both sing like motherfuckers. They have real horn sections. So they've got trumpet players, sax player. It's awesome. And then believe it or not, I know that, Katy Perry can go fuck herself because of Dr. Luke and all that shit. But her new song that she just put out last night, which I think is called, what is her new song called? Lifetimes, is very much feels like a, maybe not return to form like California Girls, but very much like Prism, that era, like right after California Girls when she was putting out, Roar and all that shit.
I didn't know you knew Katy Perry's discography so deeply.
Oh yeah, I've seen her in concert. She's great.
Yeah, I actually only am familiar. I know some of her newer songs, obviously, but that song "You're So Gay" that she did like many years ago,
way before she even got big. Right, that was before.
That was a song I like right after college. That I was like, this song. I think that song is really funny, and I don't know if she still plays it. Probably not, but that's like,
yeah, I think she switched to "I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It" is what she plays now in replacement of that.
Right, because the first line in that is like, "I hope you hang yourself with your H&M scarf."
Oh,
which is funny.
I saw her live and no, she did not play that in the concert. I don't remember that. But yeah, no, I mean, I like her. I mean, there's something really fascinating about watching her now. And I get it. Like a lot of people have said to me over the years, why don't you make games anymore? Don't you want to make games anymore? Oh, you must hate Sony now and all this stuff. And none of that applies to me. I don't feel that way. But when I watch other people who have had really big success, I can't help but feel the same way. Like I look at Katy Perry now, who was neck and neck with like Taylor Swift at the time, because I remember taking the family to see Katy Perry and Taylor Swift hadn't released Red yet. And so her tickets, she was going to be there in 2 weeks, same venue in San Diego. And her tickets were like $30. It was like nothing. Right. They were at the same place. And I look at Katy Perry now and, she can't get arrested. And Taylor Swift has become, a fucking icon kind of thing that will stand next to Madonna in the pantheon of pop culture. And I go, how does she deal with that? And if she deals with it, like, not that I was ever at that level, but in terms of in video games, I was kind of a big deal for a very short time. She probably doesn't care. She's like, well, I'm just working and just doing stuff I like. But when you look at it from the outside looking in, you're like, my God, that must be horrible. And I don't know why that fascinates me. And I wanted to share that, but I'm looking at her right now and she's smiling at me through my computer and I think she can see me. Wink. Is winking still work, Micah? Is that work for ladies still? Wink.
Oh, I love to wink at people. I'm not good at winking though.
I'm not either.
I don't know how to wink without opening my mouth.
Like in my head, I hear her saying, "Please wink at me." Wink.
Whenever I wink, I feel like I'm not doing it right. Like I feel like I
have face twitches, so nobody even knows when I'm winking. Right. It's like, are you twitching or are you winking at me? No, that's a twitch.
That's a very suave thing. I don't have that kind of sophistication.
I don't either.
No, that's interesting. Katy Perry was huge when I was in high school, and I was a freshman in high school, like when Taylor Swift was coming onto the scene with her country albums. Mm-hmm. And that's how I first discovered her. And I was like, oh, and I liked her because she had the big curly hair and everything. And I was like, oh, I like this lady a lot. And then it is interesting to see how dramatically not only her music has shifted, but her look as well. But yeah, Katy Perry, huge when I was in high school. She's of course still very famous. She hosts those talent shows type things, but it does feel like, I don't want to say B-list celebrity because it's not, but it's that feeling of, oh, it's JC Chazé from NSYNC he's hosting the dance competition while Justin Timberlake is still on tour.
Although and it he had one great fucking single called Roll, which was fucking awesome. And then you never heard from him again. But I know exactly what you mean. And, I look at like she, to Taylor Swift's credit, I mean, Taylor Swift writes her own stuff and she clearly is an intelligent person and not just in terms of a business, but in terms of her ability to express what's happening in her personal life through lyrics and music. And Katy Perry has most of her stuff written and produced by lots of other people. And so Taylor Swift has kind of matured and grown, and oddly enough, she hasn't lost her audience as she has, but maybe because they've grown with her, but she's become a bit more adult contemporary if you listen to stuff like folklore or whatever. Whereas Katy Perry seems more like, I have to just hold on to what worked. And I get that desire, but when you're 26 and you're singing about clubbing and leaving your car at the club on Tuesday because you're so fucking drunk you forgot where you parked it, it's kind of fun. But when you're 33, 34 doing it, It's not that it's not a good song. It's just that it starts to feel a little weird. Exactly. And so I don't know if you're
kind of a loser if you're doing that when you're at 34,
No, I'm with you because actually Kesha is going to rewrite TikTok because she wants to remove the P. Diddy reference.
I heard her live doing it.
I was like, this isn't relevant. Like, Kesha, trust me that none of us who were like rocking that song when it came out care that there's a throwaway line about P. Diddy. Like, this isn't relevant at all. And
but
like, it's just one of those things like, if you still were,
man, I mean, that woman has been so abused by the business and physically by her producers and the courts that, she's probably like, I don't want anything to do with this fucking P. Diddy motherfucker, given all the accusations about him now. But I get it. As a fan, though, I think it's, like, dude, who cares? Nobody cares.
It's more of like a Streisand effect because Christ, when's the last time we thought about TikTok? All right. Aside from the app, you hear TikTok now, you don't think of Kesha, you think of the app.
Yeah.
So it was more so like you're actually just bringing attention to this when I have seen hardly anyone ever mention it.
Right.
Yeah.
But just also the vibe too of like, if Kesha was still coming out with those clubbing songs, and I'm just like, we're too old for this girl. We got to stop.
Do you find yourself, because I do you find yourself missing Mr. Worldwide or Mr. 305?
DV, like Pitbull? Are we talking about
sure.
Pitbull?
Well, I call him Mr. Worldwide.
I mean, I enjoyed his collabs.
Sure.
I
With
enjoyed
Kesha
those.
Timber.
But yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Pitbull. I wasn't allowed to listen to rap when I was in high school.
I'm not the biggest fan
course.
either. I just like that he calls himself Mr. 305.
He's very
and then he got so big he changed it to Mr. Worldwide. That was
Mr.
my
Worldwide.
favorite. Yeah. Prince can get away with it. Pitbull, I don't know.
He's very ambiguously
I don't know.
ethnic. Like, what is he? Is he Hispanic?
Well,
of course.
This week he's black. This week he's black. He was Indian last week.
Because I don't know any of his music. Like, does it come out in his music or something?
Oh no, he
I look
speaks
at him and I'm
Spanish
like, I'm
in
not
his
entirely
songs.
sure. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it's very much like what's her name that had that was Spanish and Asian, the singer from Disney Channel.
Oh,
Ariana Grande. Yeah, where she goes through her different ethnicities.
she looks Asian now.
Yeah, that's like it's very.
She's doing her makeup different.
He's not so much. It's just that sometimes I look at him, I'm like, are you like just the whitest dude in the world and acting like you're Hispanic? Are you Latino? Are you light skinned black? Like I've seen him and I didn't really know. I didn't really know. I mean, I was just that's my honest
he speaks
take.
Spanish in some of his big hits.
Yeah.
But if you hadn't heard them, you wouldn't know that. But yeah, he that is interesting though, because if you look at him, you kind of be like, because
like we all know a white guy that looks like that. Come on,
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan's a great example of that.
He's Pitbull.
Yeah. Micah, are you satisfied? Are you satiated?
I am. I got to mention one meme that Jaffe reminded me of, and I think it was in the Lord of the Rings group, and it was Denethor, and he was like, "Oh, Gandalf the White, huh? Before he was Gandalf the Gray, now he's the White. Isn't that interesting?" It's like, oh my god, I'm loving these memes.
But did you see the press conference yesterday? And I know it's just like a minor thing, but it was weird because the news picked up one talking about Trump not having his tanning spray. And I'd never seen him. And they're right. He looks really white in that press conference. And I don't mean that like I'm making a joke. I mean, if you look at him, he looks really, and I get why he does the tanning spray because he looks so much older when you see him without that kind of bright face. I'm like, he looks like an old man.
Yeah, he's old, man. Yeah.
But he doesn't look that way when he sprays his face like a pumpkin. But it was really interesting. Yeah. It's really interesting. He chose not to do that.
When they spray tanned Joe Bidden,
it was
just obvious. Well, it was after the.
It was in one of the interviews.
Afterwards, he was noticeably tanned.
Yeah, I think it was in either it was in like that NBC interview. I want to say that he did.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh geez.
He was so brown, and it was just hysterical because he did look better because he had like a glow about him. But it's like you did this too late, man. Like it was just hysterical though that they tried to tan him up to like make him look a little bit more youthful, a little more vibrant.
Oh God. Yeah. I didn't even notice that.
Well, it doesn't matter. No one even knows where he is now. He's gone.
No. People say he's dead. I heard there's a rumor that he's dead.
There was like listen, I'm not going to say I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy. I love conspiracy theories, but I don't typically believe in them in real time. It's usually things that have happened that end up becoming real, like COVID starting in a lab, JFK getting his head blown off by the CIA, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I saw a shot of Joe Biden, in quotes, walking to Marine One, the helicopter.
Yep.
With
body double.
I'm like, like things are so, in other words, things are so brazen. We've all seen those specials, right? With like CIA agents where they like put on makeup and shit and like put on masks and they're like indistinguishable. Yeah. Like it's not that complicated, I don't think, for them to do kind of shit like this. And I'm like, and his gait's different and he's taller. And I'm like, what is going on with this? Where is Joe Biden, my friends? I don't know.
Biden
I have no idea where he really is. And I don't really give a shit, to be perfectly honest with you. But nonetheless, I couldn't ignore that because you had brought up it was. Did you guys see that or anything like that? It looks like a different person. He's just too tall.
His walk was really different.
It was like too good.
I don't think he's dead, but did you ever see that movie Dave with Kevin Kline?
No, I know what you're talking. That's a 90s film, right? Where he like becomes the president or whatever.
He looks just like the president, and the president, I think, has a stroke or something, and so he becomes the president. I want to show you this really quick. I'm going to put it in the thing, but
okay.
It's one of those masks. Realistic mask that they use, and this is sort of what you get on the street, right? Like anybody can grab one of these if you want to spend like thousands of dollars. Hang on,
because I just saw a video going around that was like going on TikTok about a guy just like remaking himself.
Yeah, there's a clip I just put up in the chat.
Yeah,
but and again, so imagine now what they have, at a non-consumer level. At a government level, come on. So it wouldn't surprise me that they've got, Putin has body doubles. It's probably just kind of par for the course with those guys. But
Queen Amidala had a body double,
She did. They still, that was weird. I remember watching this movie going, I don't know what the fuck's happening in this movie.
Yeah. Then they kill the body double, I think.
Yes, they did.
Right. And like in a terrorist attack.
Yeah.
All right. Third up, David Jaffe. Yours came to our inbox this morning.
Yes.
Very interesting idea. Take it away.
Yeah. So I was just wondering, here's what I'll say. It's funny because when you guys and Micah specifically talking about getting older, and that doesn't end, thank God, in terms of getting older, unless you're unfortunate. But at my age now, at 53, I certainly am not. I don't feel old, but I definitely feel at one of those crossroad moments of my life where I'm reevaluating things, and I think that happens all the time. But there are times where you just kind of go on not autopilot of your life, but it's like, okay, this is the groove of the record I'm in right now, and you don't think about it. And then there are times where you change, or the page turns this new chapter, or whatever. So I'm kind of feeling that, and I start to I've always been very comfortable and happy with sort of the dice rolls that I got, but I start to think about sort of respecing characteristics. And there are some things you can do things about and some things you can't, obviously. But I was just thinking as a thought exercise, and just like, if I could drink a magic potion or two magic potions, and they were basically taking the attributes of someone else that is either still living or had been alive recently. So it's easy to look back and go, oh, I'll take this from Abraham Lincoln. It's like, what does that even mean?
Right.
And it doesn't, who knows what it means now, but at least it's a little bit less romanticized because of history. What would the attributes be that I would take from two other people? And, would I have to give any of my own up in order to balance it? And they would lose them, but would I be willing to do it? And so I was just thinking, what would that be? And I came up with two, and I was curious what other people's potions would be. But one, I think I would take, I struggled because I have three I want, but I can only take two. That's fun. Sid Meier said a game is a decision of meaningful choices. So
yes,
you got to make one. You got to leave one behind. But the three I had, and I'll tell you the two I picked. One was Tom Cruise's just work ethic and ability to push himself at a level that I think has just benefited so many people. Is whatever you think about him and his crazy religions and all that shit. I love Tom Cruise movies, even the ones that don't work, because he clearly loves the craft. He loves the end result. And that is the love of his life, at the expense of his child, it sounds like. But, I would love to be able to apply that kind of raw focus and just, unwavering tenacity, which is almost an oxymoron probably, or a contradiction. What is it? I'm saying the same thing twice. Doesn't matter. The point is tenacity to my activities that mean a lot to me. And I do it, but I always want to do more. So that's one. There's an actor named,
by the way, real quick, Tom Cruise. I agree with you. Very impressive. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed by him. Yeah. Always have been.
Yeah. And his movies, it's like, you always know, even The Mummy, right? You always know you're going to get something that may not work, but you're going to see some attempts at something worth spending your time. And that I appreciate, and that I really, and usually it does work. Okay. There's an actor named Tim Daly, and he came to my attention only because I think he did like voice of Superman, but I know him because he's in this show called Madam Secretary, where Tia Leone plays the Secretary of State. And it's kind of it's a lot more dramatic West Wing, but it's political drama, blah, blah, blah. And he's the husband. But I started watching this show when I turned 50, and in the show, he's about the same age now. He's much, much older, but and I was just like, he was the first guy I saw where I was like, that's a guy who's older, but he doesn't look like what we usually think of as older guys. Like he handles 50, 60 really well. And whether that's his physique or whether that's just the way he styles himself, clearly I don't spend any time thinking about how I style myself. I literally wore this shirt to bed last night. I just haven't changed yet.
Oh, I did too. I did too.
Yeah. But I'm saying that if I could drink a potion and have that kind of look and care and physique, I would do that. And then there's Neil deGrasse Tyson, sort of just his intellect and his knowledge about space and science, I think would be really fucking fun. So I think at the end of the day, I would definitely take Tom Cruise's potion. And I would take the Tim Daly potion, because I've never been able to benefit from pretty privilege. And Tim Daly is a pretty man who benefits from pretty privilege. And I'm like, I don't know what that's like. I know it's a real thing. I don't resent the people that have it. Just like I hope they don't resent my charisma privilege or my creativity privilege or what have you. But Colin's like, yeah, you don't have that, buddy.
No,
I'm kidding.
It was an agreeable.
I know. Yeah. But I'm saying that I everybody gets something, close to the rolling the 18s, and I've never experienced what that would be like to walk into a room and just because I'm good looking, I have those experiences. So I would love that. So I would take that potion, the Tim Daly and the Tom Cruise potion. And I was thinking, like, what would I have to give up? And I would be like, okay, I'm a real sentimental guy, and I would give up that as long as the people that I love know who I was before I took the potion. So they've had those experiences with me. Like my children know, I tell them I love them 50 times a day. They're like, really, Dad? We didn't know, if they could remember that, then I would take those potions. But if it would be like that all got wiped away, I'd be like, nah, not changing a goddamn thing. So that's my answer. What are y'all's answers?
Micah, you first.
All right. The silly answer, because I'm going to share the first thing that came to mind when you sent this was I wanted Walt Disney's mustache and I wanted Tyson Ritter's voice, Tyson Ritter from All American Rejects. That would have been my default answer.
I'm sure Colin would have loved that.
You have the worst answers to these questions.
Okay, first of all, Walt Disney had that sick ass mustache. Okay, so like I don't want to hear it. That mustache was.
You would have looked great on you. Go ahead, my dear.
I think it would have. I think I would have had a little bit of an Addams Family thing going on. That bulgy eyed man. He's dead now. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. I would have had that.
Julia.
Yes, you see, Lockmort knew it. I would have had a little bit of that vibe going on. You would have been my Morticia. It would have been fun. We would have had fun. But the serious answer, Jaffe highlighted this, talking about work ethic. Stephen King, who I am a big fan of his books and greatly admire. Now, maybe his work ethic was largely the cocaine at the time, but I need the sober Stephen King. As he has been for a bit now. That's who I'm going for. Not the Stephen King who was fueled by drinking Listerine and whatnot. I want the sober Stephen King who sits at a desk for several hours at a time and just forces himself to work. And if you read his memoir on writing, he talks a lot about how he structures his day. And he reads a lot. He sits down at his desk for prescribed periods of time. He plays in a band. He tries to make sure he has other hobbies going. He limits his television watching. I would love to be so structured. I am someone who is greatly struggling with the freedom of working from home and the reality of So long as the work gets done, it doesn't matter what time it is. I could be fulfilling orders at 2 a.m. It doesn't matter so long as the orders get done. But I shouldn't. I should be like prescribing time of from 10 to whatever I'm doing orders. From this to this, I'm writing. From this to this, I'm going to have some time to do music, because I do just realize, I have all this free time that I just very poorly manage. So I want Stephen King's, I guess his time management. It would be the number one thing that I would steal from him, but only if he's okay. Like he's written so many fucking books. If I took it from him now, I think he's fine, right? Like I think he's good. I don't think Stephen King needs to write any more books or anything. I think we're fine. The second one, we're going to pull this one. Mark Harmon from NCIS. I got to pull from him his ability to never get sick of his work. That guy has been doing the same fucking thing for how long? How long has NCIS been going? I think he even did his own voice in the video game. And this guy just still has the same passion and gumption for it as he did the first day. The other cast members come and go. The goth girl left. They come and go. But Mark Harmon, he's not fucking going anywhere. So I want his ability to keep enjoying things even when they're no longer fresh, specifically for work. I don't get sick of things like in my general life. I am the kid who ate like peanut butter and fluff every day for 4 years of high school because I just loved it so much. But when it comes to work, I get a little bored. I start feeling a little squirrely. I start browsing the internet when I'm supposed to be doing things. I want that Mark Harmon-esque ability to just sit down every day at my desk and not be bored and just have the same zest and enthusiasm for it as I did the very first time I was told I was going to be on this cop drama. And I'm going to be working with this old man in glasses who I think died. I just want that Mark Harmon, quality.
Well, I'm looking this up real quick just for some extra information about this guy because I don't know anything. I know exactly who you're talking about, but I don't know anything about his career. One of the things that probably keeps him really happy and coming back is the $525,000 an episode he makes doing the show. But it's interesting. It says here that he is not on the show as of 2021.
Oh, really?
2003 to 2021, it looks like. Yeah.
Oh, so I can take that and not feel bad about it.
But also remember that this is a guy that tried many years to be a movie star. And I like some of his movies, but he probably was like, okay, I can't be Tom Cruise, but fuck, I can do this.
Dude, Summer School is what I was thinking.
Summer School's the shit. I love that movie.
Yeah, I love that.
Freddie Shoop. Come on now.
Yeah, good shit. Good shit. Anyway, sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, you're fine. Thinking, like Jaffe said, if it was going to affect me in some way, what my number one thing would be, I don't want to lose my, like, how do I word this? I don't want to lose the part of me that just fully acknowledges that, like, I'm a humble person. That's what I'm just like, I acknowledge that, like, I think I value myself without thinking I'm the greatest at anything, without thinking my ideas are revolutionary. I think I got a couple good things up my sleeve, but I'm not the guy who is storming into the room like this is the best thing you've ever heard. I don't want to lose that. I think what I'd want to be sure is that if I gained these good qualities, I wouldn't gain so much confidence that I lose that part of myself that is, a bit more mild, a bit more meek when presenting my ideas to others. Because that's like the ultimate of like cringe comedy type deal of like the dude who like, he's like, oh, check this out, and then like falls down. That'll never be me. That could never be me. I'm going to be like, I'm going to try this out real quick. It might not work. That's me. I'm not the guy who's going to be like, check this out, bro, and then like biffs it. I'm going to biff it anyways, but I'm going to set you up to think that I was going to in the first place. So that would be number one of both these people can retire. So I would take these skills without feeling very bad. Like Mark Harmon, you did your work, go retire. Stephen King, thank you for everything you did, go retire. And then I'll have those skills. And so long as it doesn't make me into some egotistical maniac, I'd be cool with it. All that, I think I just want to be able to sit at a desk and work for several hours without feeling like I'm dying.
I find it, first of all, $525,000 an episode is nothing compared to what some people make for a TV show, but it's crazy to me that anyone would offer another person that much money to do anything. You know, especially be on NCIS, like a 42-minute or 43-minute show procedural, in which you're on it for 13 minutes or something like that. Like, I would be like, dude, there's just something wrong with that kind of money being thrown around. I hate it. And now it's supply and demand. And it's worse in sports, where I find it so crazy how much money these guys, I love. I was watching on, Mike, you were watching with me, the HBO series Hard Knocks they do every year. They do it actually several times a year now, but it's like they embed with an NFL team. It's excellent. And it's been going for like 25 years now, and they're doing the Bears. And there is a tradition in the NFL now where players get kind of hazed, and it's not the same way anymore, like as brutal as hazing used to be in sports. So they haze them in different ways now. They make them, the rookies get up in front of everyone and like perform a song or something. But one of the traditions you notice over the years and over the different programs is the person will say their name and their signing bonus. And it's funny when like the All-Star QB gets up there, his signing bonus was $25 million. And when the fringe player got up there, it was 20,000 or something like that. And it's just so interesting. Like, and these people have to work together, and it's as if their value is that different. It's crazy to me. It's so much money. Anyway. Where are you? Oh, I'm sorry, Micah, do you have more to say?
No, that was it. That was my whole spiel.
I did want to tell you, Micah, though, the idea, you don't really have to take anything away from Mark Harmon or Stephen King. All you need is this, a little bit of Ritalin. Off to the races. That'll give you at least 4 hours. 4 hours, man, right there.
Very good.
I'll send you some. I'll bring some to San Diego next week.
Brought to you by Pfizer. Lockmort, where are you on this?
Well, the thing I've always lacked are two things. One of them is self-discipline. I'm very disciplined when it comes to work or when I have to do stuff for others, but I'm not at all disciplined when it comes to myself. Like, people have told me to stop smoking for like 20 years now. I just, for some reason, I can't. I can't do it. At some point, I probably will have to, or otherwise I'm dead. But I can't do it. So that got me thinking, like, well, who are the most disciplined people on the planet right now who are still alive? And we have the Olympics right now. So I figured, well, I'll just Google the best Olympian of all time. And Google told me that was Michael Phelps.
Oh.
Because he won 23 gold medals, apparently.
That's so crazy.
But he's 39 now. So I don't know what condition he is in right now. Maybe he let himself go. I don't know. He's a swimmer, I think, right?
Yeah, he's a swimmer.
Yeah. So that got me thinking, well, maybe that's not the smart idea. Maybe it's like a monkey's paw situation where I take his discipline, but he's old now, or old. He's still younger than I am. He let himself go or something. So maybe that'll just put me in the same spot. So then I Googled, well, who's one of the best Olympians right now? And Simone Biles just won three gold medals in Paris. So I would take her power. I would take her gymnastic power for myself. Not that I will do cartwheels or anything, but that would make me feel young again. And maybe that will make me disciplined enough to quit smoking and like finally concentrate on myself and lose weight and go outside maybe once in a while and do stuff that's healthy.
Why not?
Lockmort, I just want to show you this is Ozempic. So you got the Ritalin, and now you got the Ozempic. I got you guys covered. Don't worry about it.
Brought to you by. Why not take one of those steps instead of like doing like? There's all sorts of things I want to improve too. You know, I don't do everything I want to do either. But you try to nibble around the edges. Why not like just go for a walk every day or something? You know,
I do. It's so funny because I don't do that. I had the same conversation with my best friend the other week. He told me like, okay, from here on out, I'm going to call you every morning and you're going to go for a walk. I was like, okay, well, let's try it. Let's do it. And he called me on Monday morning at 7 a.m. and I went for a walk. Like I went for a half an hour walk, which was fine. And then he called me on Tuesday and I was like, fuck you. I'm not going to pick up. So I don't do it. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to I always tell my best friend, Ramon, I listen to what's going on with him and try to give him advice as necessary. And I always tell him like, take action. That's the thing I try to just be in my life is just take some sort of action. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You got to do what you got to do, baby boy. You know, those European freedoms don't grow on trees. You know,
that's true.
You're living in the civilization that brought you, just like we are here in our fat fucking, alcohol ridden, pill ridden country, of which I'm a huge part of, so I totally get it. Anyway, go on.
Well, that's what I'm very thankful for, because I come from a family of alcoholics, but I don't have the fortitude for that. So I'm not addicted to anything except cigarettes, I guess. So I don't have many addictions to get rid of. But yeah, you're absolutely right in what you say. And I'll agree with you right now. But tomorrow morning I wake up and I think, nah, I'm not going to do any of that.
But here, I hate butting you, but it's like, don't do it at 7 a.m. Do it at 3 p.m. You know, like just leave. You know,
it's as a guy who needs to do the same thing and has reminders. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I don't know if it's a physiological DNA thing from your and my ancestors that Colin didn't get, but I have found one of the worst parts of being human is you only change. Like there are the very rare breeds that change when they want to. But most of us, I find, including myself, change because we have to, either because of fear or a loss of a job or a health scare, and then it rarely sticks. It's the people that really are the ones that have mastered this experience that are able to say, I'm going to change because I want to change. I don't have a ticking time bomb right now, or at least one that I know of. Boy, what a power. But I don't got it.
Yeah, I have some sort of thing like with my own anxiety and I kind of like what I think is like an obsessiveness that it's like I have to work out every day. And Michael will tell you, like when I don't work out one day, which is probably like once every 20 days or so, I feel bad and I have to like make excuses for it. And
What's
she's like, you're allowed to just take days.
To do it though.
My motivation is that I want, you can never outrun your diet, but I want to do something. It's like what I was saying about taking action. It's like, well, I'm not going to stop eating what I want to eat. Mostly, but I can truncate it into a certain pocket of the day and I can work out and I can do this and I can do that. So I try to just take positive action to kind of outweigh any of the negative action in my life. And it just, I just start to feel bad about it.
Why do you care enough to truncate it is what I'm saying. Cause like Lockmort and me, if I can speak for you, Lockmort, we know that if we don't take the walks and stop the smoking, it's leading to a cliff that we can see coming. Yeah. We clearly don't care enough. You care enough to say, I'm not going to stop eating what I want, but I'm going to truncate it. Where do you think that motivation to truncate it or to at least try to mitigate it? Where is that coming from within you?
I think it's probably, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like a fear. Like I don't want to be morbidly obese. I don't want to be bedridden. I don't want to be like, I take for granted. Actually, I was listening to a football podcaster that I listened to, and he was saying how he's having problems with like really serious vertigo. And he was saying like, you take for granted the natural state of your body. Right. And then my back started hurting recently. Like it actually feels better now, but in my lower back, like it never hurts there. And it was like really debilitating and annoying the shit out of me. And I just want to I don't want to ruin my physicality that I think I've always had in my life. That is like much worse than it was when I was younger, obviously, but I know that it's important and it's part of what's going to keep me healthy. So, because I do things that are deeply unhealthy too. The foods I'm eating are unhealthy. My doctor recommended me statins, as I said on the show a couple months ago, and we're not doing that. Like, but maybe will eventually. And I smoke weed every day, so it's not like I don't have my own. And I'm not. I love the memes where it's like, tell the alcoholic he's addicted, and it's just like, yeah, I know. And then it's like, tell the pothead I'm addicted, and it's like a whole book of text about how like they got. I'm like, no, obviously I have some sort of addiction to marijuana. I mean, there's like just no doubt about that. I'm addicted to the way it manages my anxiety, makes me feel, subdues me. And so I'm not above it. I just try to not get in. I just try not to. I would eat all fucking day if I could. I've said this many times. I love food and I think about food all the time. I think I kind of learned maybe in my early 20s, like actually you can't eat whatever you want like you used to and do something about it. So smoking cigarettes, I totally get it. I just don't do it. They're harsher than smoking weed. That's the funny thing is like when I smoke a cigarette every once in a while with someone, I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is really harsh compared to smoking weed, which makes no sense to me, but it's true. And so it's almost like if it was a little more mild, I would probably, I need to smoke like Virginia Slims like my grandma used to do. Yeah.
But it's funny that you brought up weed because I up until 2 years ago, I smoked weed every day as well. But during COVID, this is not an excuse at all. But during COVID, something inside my brain snapped and ever since then, when I go outside, I have like some form of like agoraphobia. So when I go outside in like a wide open space, not people, I don't care about people, but like in a wide open space in a field or somewhere, I get panic attacks, or I got panic attacks I should say, for no reason. I don't know why. I never had any problem with anxiety or like mental disorders, but like when COVID started and I stayed indoors for like a year and then I went outside, that's when it started happening. And it never went away. I still have it from time to time. So that's when I decided, well, I'm going to have to do something about this because I literally can't leave my apartment anymore. So that's when I quit weed 2 years ago, because I had to. It didn't help me. It didn't solve it and it didn't do anything, but I did
better
quit
though
weed.
that way. Yeah.
I don't know if it's, honestly don't know if it's better because it didn't really solve anything. I just quit. It gave me more money back. I waste less money that way. Let's say that. So I think Jaffe made a good point there that I only did that because I had to, because I thought it would solve this weird issue I'm having for no reason. So I think if it is out of fear, or if the doctor tells me if you don't quit now, you'll die next week, then yeah, sure, I'll quit. But there has to be like a big.
But you'll
incentive.
only quit for a small amount of time too. I mean, that's why I always recoil a bit when I see people on the internet that are like, "Look, I lost 150 pounds," and everyone's like, "Oh my God, that's so great, that's so great." Because I think the stat that I get quoted is 95% of diets fail. Right? Like you are, and it doesn't mean you can't get healthier. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try. And the reason I'm on Ozempic is because I'm doing it through medicine, because I'm like, I can't do it on my own. Right. But I do think maybe what you run afoul of is we all have our specific hierarchy of needs, after the basic ones are met. And society has kind of positioned itself in such a way that this particular hierarchy or this set of hierarchies are the ones that you should covet and value. And if you don't have that, you can go an entire lifetime of feeling shitty about your choices that might just be as valid as anybody else's choices about their needs being met. It's just that the way you present that choice is a way that society says, now, that's not good to be overweight, or it's not good to be on weed so much. What's really good is to make a lot of money for capitalism or whatever, or to pray a lot to the church. I don't fucking know. I'm just saying that there's something about it that feels a little cruel to me when it's like, these are the things you need to be, and let's build entire industries around trying to get you to be those things, when it's like, fuck you, motherfucker. This is how I'm wired, and I might die sooner than you're going to die, but I'm going to have a good time doing it. Just a thought.
That's true, but they also try to. I don't think it's nefarious what those people try to do. Like, they try to help you. Like, being healthy is better than not being healthy, of course.
Yes, but how do you define healthy? Is being healthy better if you're thinking about food 24/7 and you can't enjoy your life because you're constantly like on the scale and having disordered eating? Obviously not. But I'm just saying that there's a sense of what does it mean to be healthy? Yes, there's the physiological aspect. Of course, that's important. I would love to be healthier. I would love to not be morbidly obese, which I am. But would I love it if it means I have to deal with whatever demons I deal with by food? Maybe not.
Sure. It always, that's true. It always against each other, of course. That's true. But yeah. I think addictions are something. It's also highly personal for everyone. Like, I know plenty of people who quit smoking and had no issue with it, even though my dad smoked for like 30 years, and then the doctors found like a little lump or saw like a black spot in his lung, and he quit smoking. Like one day he quit, and it turned out to be nothing, but he still quit smoking. So yeah, I guess with addiction, they need to scare you straight, literally, I guess. But that, yeah, I don't see how that helps fat people or like obese people. Because yeah, it's not healthy to be fat, but it doesn't really, maybe if you have a heart attack, maybe that helps. But other than that, I do see the benefit of being thin and healthy. I didn't used to be fat I didn't used to be fat. When I was in my 20s and in my early 30s, I was like normal. It just started happening out of nowhere. It's not like my eating changed.
Well, it's age. Was your dad overweight or your mom?
No, nobody. I'm the only one in my family.
Huh.
I'm literally the only one. Yeah. And I do think it happens because I don't go outside anymore. So that probably makes it worse.
Oh, it's scary.
But I guess, yeah. But I do dumb stuff. Like I brought a cross trainer last year because I figured, well, I'll just do it inside then. If I can't go outside, I'll just do it inside. But it's still in the box. I never unpacked it. I bought like a treadmill. Same thing. I never unpacked it. It's still in the box. So it's something mentally that I have to get over. It's like I need discipline.
I think it's funny, man. Like
really good. It actually gets you up because they're fun. Fucking fun, man.
Yeah.
Jaffe was saying something about like what is it, and about like that keeps me driven. And I guess I actually have in my life always had a reward structure built into like the things that I do. And maybe I've taken that for granted in some sense, that like when I was like a big, like prodigious pothead in college, I took all my classes in the morning, 8, 9, 15, 10:30. I've gone into this before. And then I would work in the afternoons and into the early evening. And then for the 7 o'clock Seinfeld on local TV, I would like turn everything off and then like become pothead Colin. And that was like the give and take, the yin and yang of my life and how it had to happen. And so I've always tried to have like column A and column B. And maybe you just need to say that you'll get your treadmill set up in front of a TV and just watch TV shows. I mean, listen to music.
I don't mean to press on this because I'm fascinated by it. And that's the only reason I'm pressing. But I think what I need from your brain, Colin, is the understanding of like, it's because putting a treadmill in front of the TV is the Rosie O'Donnell bag of carrots. It's what motivates you to want the reward enough to go through that effort. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Lockmort. It's not that you don't know how to make exercise easier. It's that not, you're not willing to do what it takes because for whatever reason. And for you, Colin, that reason, there's a motivation there. And I would love to have the motivation, but I don't. And where did it come from for you?
Well, I think specifically the honest answer is, and this is an old story for people, and I know people are tired of hearing my stories over and over again, but is when I moved to California after college, I used to be able to eat anything ever that was like put in front of me and never gain weight. It was crazy. I was notoriously skinny. I loved it. I took it for granted. I moved to California. I started a desk job. My life changed and I gained like 40 pounds, and there's a picture of me that my ex took of me in my underwear making chicken cutlets. That was like the worst picture I've ever seen in my life of me. I'm like, I can't believe that that's what I look like. This was when I lived in an in-law. This was like in 2009 in San Francisco. And I was in this small in-law apartment and like just cooking and not even thinking about like, wow, man, like you are absolutely letting yourself go. It's happening to you in real time. And I just told myself at that point, like, you have to at least be aware of it. Like you can't just eat the way you used to eat anymore. I used to go and get, and this was in 2005, 6, 7. Like I used to go get $20 worth of McDonald's and just like eat it all for like dinner. That was an enormous amount of food. And now that would be like $40 worth of McDonald's. But, and I used to get away with it. My pre-meal hockey meal was a whole thing of Lipton butter noodles. I used to eat that before every hockey game. That's like 2,000 calories in and of itself. And I had to change my life. So I think, but the funny thing is that I've
happens. Why did it motivate you to see you in that? I could see myself in a picture like that and go, oh, that sucks. I hate that. Oh, well, where's the noodles? What was it that flipped the switch for you is what I'm saying.
Maybe I think what I remember about that picture, and I don't have it anymore because she would have it and she probably, I'm sure, deleted it fucking 15 years ago at this point. But I remember looking at that picture and being like, that is so unnatural. It's like Colin in a fat suit, basically. Like, it doesn't even look like me. That's not who I am in some sense. I don't like that. That's like the vision I'm putting out to the world. It's not about like fat people being bad or skinny people being good or anything like that. It's like, no, I don't want to let myself get consumed by food like this. I didn't realize that I couldn't always eat like this for the rest of my life and make some sort of adjustment. And the funny thing is that I'm not fat. I don't think I would categorize myself like that, but I think I'm slightly like mildly overweight for sure. I mean, I'm still probably like 190 or so and 195 maybe. And I'm more muscular than I've been in my entire life, which is cool because I'm doing weight training and all that for the first time, but still, I still have too much weight on my frame. So even with my awareness, some level of discipline and working out, it still doesn't matter. It would just be way worse than this. And that's the only thing that kind of keeps me going, I guess, and doing it every day. So do you think
it's safe to say, I don't mean to belabor this, I'm just fascinated by it. Do you think it's safe to say that maybe if you drill every human down or consciousness down we have 3 or 4 key motivators. And once, like for you, it sounds like there was that picture made you go, as much as I like the food, as much as I like not caring about it, when I realized one of those alpha concerns got tripped. And maybe for you, it was like, this no longer feels like the essence of me. That was able to sort of dominate all the other desires you had. Like that's what I'm trying to figure out, is sort of what is the key driver, because you can drop down deeper and deeper and deeper into motivations until you really get to the core of what's driving the behavior. And that's, and maybe what the answer is, Jaffe and Lockmort, you guys need therapy. You need to figure out what it is about
Probably, yeah.
What are you getting out of not setting up the treadmill that really speaks to a higher calling in your psyche than your image of you being healthy. Because for you, that picture, I love that story because I hadn't heard the story, but the picture, it clearly flipped some kind of psyche switch, which, man, if you could have that control and know what your switches were, that would be some power.
Yeah. And it was interesting too, because it's kind of like in the or like very, very early. I don't think I even had a smartphone at this point. Like you're not seeing yourself, you're not seeing others. So it's like how I was like, I was like, wow, I didn't realize that this is the way I looked, and I just didn't like it, but I don't have control in everything. And I certainly need to have better self-control. I need to make better choices still. But yeah, the concession is like all it's ever been. And I just want to have that. If I don't make that concession, I'll start making really bad choices. I'll start drinking a lot. I'll start like drinking is one of those things too, where I love to drink. I love drinking. Oh my God, I love to drink. And I do once a week and at dinner. And I try to kind of just limit it to that because I know how easy it is. And I know how close I've been to getting too carried away, I think, and it becoming too easy. So it's just good to have like your guard up in some way, but I still lose to a bunch of different things. But my answer to this question though, two people. So the first one that came to mind for me was I would love to have the vision of Steve Jobs, R.I.P. Steve Jobs is a great example of someone he's not a layman. He was an engineer himself. He famously programmed or helped program Breakout for, Atari and did all these kinds of things. But he wasn't a genius level programmer or knower of electronics. He was more of an enjoyer of electronics. And it was Wozniak, of course, his friend and colleague, that was really the brains behind the operation. But without Steve Jobs, it was only later and maybe even after he died that people really started to respect his vision truly. And certainly that began when he came back to Apple and realized how important vision was, that you didn't just need technical competence, that you needed someone to anticipate things and drive the technology in a certain way. And the stories about this person, I'm very read up on Steve Jobs and have been for a long time because I think he's fucking amazing in a lot of different ways. And the stories about him are incredible. About going and pillaging Xerox of all of their tech, basically. These guys these fucking suits sitting on this technology sometimes for years, not having any idea what to do with it. And it took a guy just with some vision to say, like, you don't know what to do with a mouse. You don't know what to do with an Ethernet connection. You don't know what to do with a graphical user interface. Are you guys stupid? And he did it himself. And it was the same thing with Apple One and the Homebrew Computer Club, where Wozniak wanted to give the design away for free. And it was Steve Jobs was like, you're out of your mind. Like, you've created the personal computer, basically. Like and it goes on and on and on, what he was trying to do with Next. First of all, Macintosh, there were failures too, Lisa and other things, but what they were trying to do with Mac. And then when he comes back and really turns things around with iMac and then iPod and then iPad and ultimately, dies at that point. These are visionary products that change the world. And having that level of vision in your own field would be incredible. That's like seeing 20,000 miles over the horizon in clear skies kind of vision. To double down on those things and to be just a kid basically from Berkeley that went to Berkeley that were selling people from like Intel and all on their early design philosophies and ideas and really getting it off the ground. It's incredible. So there are very few people like him. And it's so sad that like he should still be here that's like what's so frustrating is people don't die for any reason, but he died almost voluntarily. I mean, that's kind of the most fucked up part about it. And I highly recommend the Walter Isaacson biography of him. It's excellent. And the other person I would say that I think would vibe with everyone here is, what about the creativity of a Shigeru Miyamoto? Miyamoto's, I think, presence in more modern Nintendo is probably overstated. He's he's always been a producer. I think people think that he's like in the trenches or whatever. And the thing about Japanese, and he's obviously a designer and he did direct some things. He directed, Mario 64, for instance. But I think that in Japan, and you'd probably be able to speak to this a little bit, Jaffe, is that they're a little faster and looser with like how they describe roles and people's roles within teams and like what they're really doing and all that kind of stuff. And it's just clear that the level of Nintendo creative consistency comes from its people. And he's central to that. I think Iwata was certainly central to that, and others as well. And I know that they've, in the last 10 years, spent a lot of time trying to imbue a new generation of people with that so they can eventually go away. And I think I heard something recently, I don't know what context it was, that Miyamoto only makes like a few $1 million a year or something, which is like a joke. I mean, it's like a complete fucking joke. That someone can make $2 or $3 million and do what he has done, where there's guys making 20. They're not in the company. Nintendo's a very modest company in this way, but executives making 20, 30, $40 million a year. That's more where you would think he would be, or would have found himself at some point. But that level of creative genius and the idea of understanding, I think at a fundamental level, what is fun and like what is sticky and what the idea is and how long you should stick with the idea and what it demands out of you. And that's like a real harmony of things that usually you would need an entire team to understand. And it seems like he's kind of the connective tissue that understands all of it. Now, a lot of people, it's true that like with Kojima and others, this happens where their presence overshadows the many important people around them that execute on these ideas. And this has no doubt happened with Miyamoto. And I know even less about his whole staff than I would know about Kojima's. So I'm sure there are people behind the scenes that Nintendo nerds would know, but he's been a good steward of the brand, of an iconic revolutionary brand. And so to have the vision of a Steve Jobs and the kind of creative execution and vision too of a Miyamoto would be pretty sick. So those are my answers.
Would you give up anything to get that?
Oh yeah, I guess if I had to. I don't even know what I would give up though. I don't even know like what my the honest answer is, like I'm not even sure like what my positive attributes are. I think they're just like at a nexus of things. It's like, those in-game graphs and they make like a pentagon kind of shape, and it's like strength and they make some weird shape. Like I have something like that too. I don't know how to describe it.
Okay, so then, Micah, if you had to have Colin give up something to get those that would make you very sad to see him give up, because that's probably a better way to answer the question. What would he give up to get those that would make you really sad?
Oh, I mean, that's the thing. I guess, echoing you, Jaffe, Colin is someone who's extremely sentimental, someone who's like very kind, and just someone who's like very family oriented. I think that would be the monkey's paw of, okay, you could have the vision of Steve Jobs and the creativity of Miyamoto, but you wouldn't be the same tender-hearted person on the inside. That would be the absolute, like, no deal. I'm not pushing that button, you bald fuck, no deal. And the banker's calling. He's like, that would be the thing, would be if Colin lost any of his either sentimentality or just that, Colin, I liken much to like a peanut M&M, and I'm stealing this from King of Queens, that he's got a crunchy and a hard exterior, but on the inside, there's a nice, sweet middle in there. And that would be just the absolute, no, you can't lose that.
There's a peanut inside the peanut M&M.
Oh. Yes. And we love the peanut M&M. It's the best one.
But that's not the soft part.
No, I said sweet. I said a nice sweet middle. Okay. And it's got the chocolate and the peanut. Kevin James said it, not me.
I'm just saying, I don't think you know what a peanut M&M is, but I take the point, and I think it's very sweet.
Yeah, thank you. That's very nice.
It's a lack of understanding of, confection, but it's very sweet. Isn't that what candy's called? Confection?
Yeah, confections. Yeah.
Yeah.
Confectionery.
I was trying to sound smart.
No, that would be like a 19th century, like a candy, like an early candy shop. I was looking here at because I just got an email. These people in our HOA are just getting a little too aggressive with the emails now. It's like tennis camp reminder. It's like, come on, man. Like, you need to email me a reminder about tennis camp?
Well, complete side note, have you been getting the emails to join Nextdoor?
Yeah, I unsubscribed.
The absolute last thing on my list is to join the, online neighborhood watch where your neighbors can complain that whose car is this? And it's a car that's been parked there for months and they just didn't notice till now. It's like, I don't need this. There's nothing happening here. Go away. There's no need for me to sign up for Nextdoor. There's nothing happening here.
I want the neighborliness. I want the neighborliness, Micah. It's like, so our backyard faces it's kind of like a circle almost, like other backyards, kind of. It's not quite that, but you see a bunch of different backyards from our backyard as the land kind of goes around. And one of the guys that kind of like borders our yard has just been MIA and just like have no idea where this guy is. And so like his back lawn is just ridiculously long and like fucked up. And I think it was my uncle or someone was like, oh, you can tell the HOA or whatever. I'm like, I'm not going to tell anyone. Like, I don't want to have any like beef with my neighbors at all. I'm not going to I don't know where this guy is. He's probably on vacation or some weird shit, or he's dead.
Maybe he's rotting inside the house.
Well, like someone's staying there, but they're just not mowing the lawn for some reason. So, but it's like, I just don't want any beef with anyone. So that's a break glass in case of emergency situation. And that's not even remotely, because I wouldn't want people to bust my balls.
Have you ever seen him?
I've seen. Yeah. He was here before. Okay. His house was done before ours, so he's been here longer. He's a long distance trucker, and he's usually gone for weeks at a time and comes back. But he's been gone for like months. But there is someone staying at his house, and the backyard is padlocked. So what we noticed from our yard, so like they can't get the lawnmowers back there, so it's just out of control like crazy. And a bastard neighbor would fucking complain and get that guy in trouble. And I'm like, I'm not doing that to this person. It's just, I don't want to have that kind of power relationship with people around me.
No. And I want to say too, the thing with the Nextdoor, my specific thing is I see all the petty shit posted online, and that's not what I want to get into at all. I see all the petty stuff about Nextdoor, and when you talk about neighborliness and keeping an eye on your neighbors, that's good. But when you see like the threads about look what got posted on Nextdoor, and it's people complaining that your dog stepped on my grass, like not that your dog pooped, but that your dog stepped on the grass. Like, and I'm just like, I don't want to know you people on this level. I don't want any beef with anybody. I don't want to see something I dislike and be like, oh man, that lady's nuts. Like, I just want to keep you guys all at arm's length so that we are just all getting along. Because if I know you better, that's when problems start.
The only good thing I will say about Nextdoor, though, is lost pets. It's really good if you see a dog and you're like, oh, shit, you can go in Nextdoor and go, is somebody's dog missing? Or take a picture and go, hey, this dog was in my yard, didn't have a collar, it ran away. But if it's your dog.
Free dog. I'm taking, I have 3 dogs. Now I have 3 dogs. Oh, look how cute she is.
What I'm more bummed out about is like who sold our email address. And it must have been.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't know, like the HOA or something. Yeah, like we're getting direct invites from Nextdoor. Like, how do they know that we want to be invited to this neighborhood? No one has our email address. It's just strange. Like that pisses me off a little bit.
Yeah, because I'm not even I wasn't even here when you bought the house. I'm not on any of the paperwork for anything.
That's interesting.
So like, why am I getting this too?
Yeah.
How did it doesn't make any sense.
Interesting. Well, nonetheless. So, Jaffe, are you satisfied?
Oh God. Yes. Now I am.
Oh, good. Very well.
I'm all good.
Excellent.
Thank you, bud.
Lockmort, let's finish up with you. We'll finish strong.
Sure. Well, I did go for a walk this afternoon because I had to do something. I had to go and watch the movie Borderlands, which is in the theater right now, and it wasn't great. It wasn't good either. It was very, very bad. And that got me thinking, like, why can't video games do movies right? They're great for TV, like The Last of Us or Fallout. But movies seem to always be pretty bad. There's a couple of exceptions, like Sonic or Mario, like the animated ones. They're pretty great, but Tomb Raider are all pretty shitty. Hitman movies are all pretty shitty. Resident Evil, there's a bunch of them that are pretty bad. So that got me thinking, like, what if you guys had to make a video game movie adaptation, what would you pick? But since you're in the games industry, or at least two of you are developers even, there are a couple of restrictions, of course, here. So that got me thinking, it has to be an original video game IP. So no Batman or no superheroes. Like, it has to be an original video game. It can't already exist. So no Mario, no Sonic, Tomb Raider, Uncharted, Mortal Kombat. There's a bunch of them. So it can't already exist. And then another important thing is it has to be a 2-hour movie. There's no sequel. The whole story has to wrap up in 2 hours or less. So no sequel, no franchise. It has to be done.
What is the goal? A good movie or
Yes.
box office?
Let's say, well, they kind of cling together, no?
They don't have to. I mean, is the goal to make a
That's
great
true.
film? In that case, the answers might be different. Or a movie that's going to be a big summer hit.
Let's say it has to be a good movie. Let's say that. It has to be a good movie.
That's a
I'm
priority.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I'm from the principle, if it's good, it'll find an audience. But if since two of you are developers, you can't pick one of your own games because that would be too easy.
Yeah.
That would put you at an unfair advantage.
Abraxia.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny that you brought up Tom Cruise earlier, because have any of you guys seen Edge of Tomorrow?
Yeah.
The Tom Cruise
Yes.
movie?
I've not
Great
seen it, no.
movie.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Yes, me too. It's
Although I like to call it Die Again and Again, or whatever they renamed it, if you remember.
Yeah.
Live, die,
Sure.
repeat.
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah. Exactly. It's basically is a video game. It's a movie from 2014 where there's an alien invasion and Tom Cruise gets sent to the front line and he dies. And every time he dies, there's a time loop. So he has to fight the aliens over and over again until he gets it right, and then they win. And that got me thinking, well, my game adaptation would be Deathloop, because it's kind of the same principle. It's not very easy, but it's easier to get like the story done in 2 hours if you base it around the same stuff Edge of Tomorrow does. So I was thinking, maybe you make the characters a bit older. You get like Denzel Washington, who gets sent to Black Reef. There's 4 assassination targets instead of 8 that he has to take care of. The other assassin that's there that takes him out and causes the time loop over and over again is Halle Berry, who's also a bit older. But we've already seen that they can do it because she was in John Wick 3, and he has the Equalizer movies out right now. He's also in Gladiator 2.
I love those.
Yeah, they're awesome. So I think they can do it. And Deathloop is like a pretty simple story, but it's intriguing, I think, and it could be done in under 2 hours. So my question to you guys is, what game will you pick? Who would star in it? And do you change the story or not?
All right. Michael, let's hear from you first.
Yeah, well, first off, Locke, kudos to you making a movie full of black people. I didn't know you liked Pumpernickel. I'm proud of you, son.
Well, it's set on Black Rock. You have to. It's a lot.
True enough.
So my answer may be obvious if you know me. The Order 1886 would be perfect as a movie. You could stay pretty
Didn't they already do that? Wasn't that the Order 1886? Sorry, I'll shut up now.
So I love that game. I fucking love that game. Forever upset that there's no sequel. But you could stay pretty faithful to the core story beat and have this wrapped up in a 2-hour movie. I would change a couple things. I'm not going to spoil the game, but I'll say there's an unresolved arc in the game that was clearly going to lead to a sequel. What I would do for the movie would just tie up that loose end. Or I'm okay with leaving it a bit ambiguous as long as we go into it sort of like it's intentional. It's going to be intentional that you're leaving the story by saying, so he goes off on his next adventure, and it's going to be very obvious that his work isn't done. All right. Still his work remains, but we're going to just leave it there. I think that would really be the only thing I'd have to rework, just to give the audience a concrete feeling while still maintaining that, yeah, the work of the Order is ongoing. This movie is just about a couple of their missions and a couple of their operations that they ran, but their work never ends. And this, as long as you kind of drive that home, I think it would be still satisfying to the audience, let's say. The cast, because the Order 1886 centers around these 4 knights. So I'd have Colin Farrell as Sir Galahad, because he kind of looks like him.
Yeah.
I'd have Jennifer Lawrence as Lady Igraine, because it kind of looks like her. I had to Google some of these other actors, because I'm not hip to the scene. So for the Marquis de Lafayette, who's like a young guy, he's the youngest, guy new to the Order. I had to Google young male actors because I don't know any of them except Tom Holland, and he wasn't right. So I found a man named Paul Mescal that looks like him. So we're going to go with that.
He's in Gladiator
and then for
too.
Oh, see, never heard of him. For Sir Percival, I Googled gray-haired male actors, and I chose Oscar Isaac. Now, wrong ethnicity, but he has the look. All right. He's got the right look. He has the right vibe. I think he could pull it off. That's the only kind of one that I chose that I think is like the wrong ethnicity, but I think it's fine. It's not like I'm trying to make Lady Igraine black or anything. I'm not doing anything crazy. All right. But I think Oscar Isaac would work here. And for the director, I don't know any. So I'm going with Christopher Nolan, because I like the Batman movies a lot. And I think it's similar enough to his Dark Knight trilogy. I think he's going to be a right choice for this, even if he's the only one that I could name anyways. But that'd be my pitch. Order 1886, Christopher Nolan, starring Colin Farrell. It's going to be a hit. Get your box office, ready. Get the popcorn popping and the butter melted. We got something to do here.
Well done. Jaffe, I'm very interested to hear what you have to say about this and what you think of this. And by the way, somewhat serendipitous, I saw Twisted Metal season 2 is now in production. I saw a picture from the set, which is cool. Are you going to do your cameo this time?
I don't know. I was mentioning that to somebody, and I think it was Keeley wrote me about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Assad says he'll call you." I don't know. And they asked me last time. I said no because it was COVID. If it's close to where I am, yeah. But I
hope you do it if you have the opportunity. I really do.
People want me to do it, awesome. But I might do it for that reason, because enough people have said, "Dude, you have to do it."
You'll be so happy you did. You'll be so happy you did it. So just do it.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Like I told you in the first season, I would have loved you as the map maker guy. I think that would have been the role that I would have cast you in, which would just that one scene. He's like the black guy that's like that sells I think he's like got a limp or something, and he's like in the store, and it's like very early in the show. I would have loved to see you as that character.
Somebody wanted me to be the guy on the road wearing the diaper or something. The crazy guy. Doing that? You got to pay me a lot for that. I have a no nudity clause in my contract. Okay. I mean, okay. I'm going to give you obnoxiously 2 answers. I'm going to give you a more commercial answer, which is I think Dead Space would be a great movie if you had, I don't mean like a massive budget, but if you had like a Mike Flanagan, who's kind of the big horror guy right now, but he's still not making these $800 million things, like a nice, decent, like $70 million movie that has a vision. I think Dead Space would be a really good, fun spring movie. Who plays Isaac? I don't think it matters. Who gives a shit? I mean, it's a guy in a hell, I don't give a shit. But as a genuinely good movie, I think I would make Dave the Diver. I would have Simon Pegg direct, not Simon Pegg. What's the guy who did Baby Driver's name? Was that Simon? No, who directed that?
Edgar Wright.
I would have him direct it with Nick Frost as Dave the Diver. I think it would be interesting and funny and unique. So it would be a comedy, but it would also have, the cool underwater civilization part of the game and the sushi bar thing, and him, people still picking on him, like don't really seeing him as this unassuming hero kind of thing. I think you could genuinely get a good, fun movie out of Dave the Diver. I don't think you'd win any Oscars, but I think it would be one of those, hits that a lot of people talk about and like. That's what I would do.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking up Edgar Wright because I don't know anything about directors either. It's so interesting to see people with filmographies like this where they do very little, and they just do very select things. I think that's pretty cool. Because his first film was 1995, and he's only done 9 films. which is pretty interesting.
All right.
Okay. Like Jaffe, I have two answers as well. One I think is actually the better idea. One I think would be the more obvious choice. So, and I think they're both would be actually pretty cool ideas. But so I'll give you the more normal, conventional one first, which is Returnal. That could very easily be a 2-hour sci-fi horror movie and be really, really well done. I'm very similar where I don't even presume to tell you who should play anyone or who should direct anything because I just don't know films like that. Like
Sigourney Weaver, easy.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. That wouldn't cause any confusion.
Really, she's too old?
Yeah, it would be ridiculous to cast her in that role.
The lady in Returner's old. The lady in Returnal is old.
No, I know, but Sigourney Weaver's
like
already
50. She's not like 75.
Oh, Sigourney looks great for her age. All right, like it could work.
I don't want. I don't want them
I mean,
to
you
cast
could get Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, that would sure. That would be interesting. Fine. I don't know. So that was my original idea. That would about the Astra Corporation and this Atropos, like the planet that's like stuck in some sort of time loop, and she's stuck in it, and then she gets out, but she's actually not out, and all of that. It would be pretty cool. I think you can get that done in 2 hours. And I really like to get that back to that game. So I beat that game, but I never platinumed it. I would love to go back and try it again because I had to master that game. That game really challenged me. The other idea I have, though, I think would be funnier and more interesting, and it's a strange idea, I think, but it's from a game I really love, and it's like a comedy movie, like more of a 90s or silly, inappropriate comedic film, Power Wash Simulator.
All right.
About like a company, like an upstart power wash company that's trying to compete against like this ridiculous megalithic comedic power washing company, and like how just the trials and tribulations over a 90-minute movie of these two guys, they're best friends and they're down and out, and they whatever, and they start up this power wash company, and they're trying to be, and they're really good, and they get a good clientele, and then there's like big power wash company tries to squash them. We don't really I don't want to say we don't get movies like that anymore, but that was like those kinds of movies were a staple for 30 years or something, so I was looking at the reason I came up with that.
The fuck out of that movie. That's like
that's
that
awesome.
should be Lily Mo Productions' first movie. Make that.
It's just fun. Like I was looking at my trophies to try to come up with ideas, and I wrote a bunch down. And Power Wash was near the top because I just did some of the DLC, and I was like, it is funny to just think about that as an idea, just some stupid, like an Adam Sandler style movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, something stupid like that.
That's awesome, yeah.
Because there's funny stuff in Power Wash Simulator. You get like the texts from the customers, and sometimes those are like legitimately funny. You'll like sometimes those little texts will pop up on screen. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like
story to it. I actually don't. I think Ben knows it because Ben's really into Power Wash Simulator too. But there is like a whole meta to Power Wash Simulator if you care, which is funny.
I know a guy who was a Power Wash guy, and he's like, people almost take their feet off with that work in that job. That shit is so powerful. He's like, he had a coworker who lost a toe. I'm not kidding. You could do all kinds of crazy shit with that.
I've told Micah that because I think that we had a guy power wash in the backyard, and I think he fucked up the concrete a little bit by doing it too hard. And but he fucked up like one of my butterfly bushes too. This guy was a fucking
destroyed it.
This guy was like
out flowers, now the butterfly bushes. Jesus fucking
he's like,
Christ.
It's like I'm dude, I'm starting to get upset with like what's going on out in the yard because I'm like putting so much work out. Like when I saw that, I was like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. Like, are you kidding me with this? And it was the same thing with the guy destroying the butterfly. But he like left. We have just like concrete around our pool or whatever, just a basic concrete, patio. And he did it. And I don't know if he like just took a little bit off the top or something, like when he was doing it. But I don't even know if that's really possible. But I have heard the same thing about power washers that you can really fuck someone up with one. I was telling you that, Mike, and you were like kind of poo-pooing it. I was like, no, I don't want to. Because you were saying like you can maybe do it.
I said,
I'm like, I'm not doing a power wash. I'm going to fucking kill someone.
Here's the thing. I am not telling you to go buy a power washer that's hooked up to a generator in the back of a pickup truck. I was telling you to get a $100 Sunjo off Amazon, and the pressure that is capable on those household power washers is probably 1/10 of what's possible on the one that guy had. You aren't going to take a toe off with a Sunjo machine that you buy from QVC. Like your aunt power washes their patio. She's not using something that's gonna like take a finger off. Like I was saying, we could do this ourselves with a household machine. Not one that's gas powered and insanity. Like, good Lord, no, I wouldn't trust you with that.
I got to get the concrete.
I know what you're capable of.
I got to get the concrete sealed out there anyway, because we originally, our pool company was fucking horrible. Like that we even got anything done at all with them was amazing. I was promised stamped concrete, but they just gave us like regular concrete, which is actually fine and maybe even a little safer. Because you have a little bit.
It
more
is less slippery.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe it's like kind of, and that's what most people get anyway, which is fine. But I want to get it like sealed. It's starting to crack. Like these guys just did a horrible job. You know, I've accepted that in like 10 years, I'm going to have to just get the concrete ripped out and just because it's going to bother me so much and just get it redone. But we'll get there when the time comes. But those are the films that I don't know what movie viewers want anymore. It doesn't even seem like movies exist anymore in some sense. Like in the public consciousness, except for like these random films that come out that do very well, the Marvel movies or a big Nolan film or whatever. And looking at the games that I wrote down, it's like many of these would just be really good mini series, but you would need more than 2 hours, I think, to do a lot. Because like a recent one for me was like Pentiment. Like Pentiment would be a really cool 3 episode, 180 minute kind of thing, but you need a little bit more time. So yeah, those are my answers. I hope they're satisfied.
I just sent you a video of a guy who's hooking his kid up to a power. He was trying to get his kid to fly. And he attached his kid to a power wash. That's true. I just saw the end of it. I'm like, oh my God. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is how many pressure washers does it take to fly is the video if people want to look it up. 16 million views.
Oh my God. And it's the parallel to the guy who was tying balloons to like his pet turtle. And it's like, how many balloons to make Shelby fly?
Well.
And he just kept putting balloons on until he started floating a couple inches off the ground.
Yeah,
a little less dangerous.
If you jump to like 16, 15, that's all you need to see.
16, 15, let's see.
The very last 5 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, okay, here we go. Oh no. He's taping it. The kid gets duct taped.
And I thought it was real at first. That's why I gasped. I was like, oh my God.
Jaffe was like 100% believer about Balloon Boy. Do you guys remember Balloon Boy?
Oh, I was terrified. But I mean, who wasn't believing it at first? You thought he was going to fall out of that fucking thing. What the fuck is up with that weird fucking family?
I don't know, man.
Both of them went to jail, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because it was all a hoax.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, all that effort in the emergency response, and it was all a hoax. He was never in the balloon in the first place. It's like, oh my God.
And I was just watching it going, please don't fall out. But there was a part of my brain going, please fall out.
Yeah.
I didn't really want him to fall out, but I wanted to see him fall out. But I didn't want him to fall out.
Right. I totally understand what you mean.
Yeah.
All right. Are you satisfied, Locke?
Yeah, perfect. Fun.
Awesome.
Fun movies.
Well, that was fun. It was good to kind of get our minds off things for a little while, do an episode of Constellation, be with the fam here. Let's go around the horn and say goodbye to everyone, though. Jaffe, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Have a good weekend.
Always. Yes, you as well. Thanks for having me as always. Hello, everybody. You know what? I'm debating Monday. There was a guy on our last Constellations that went live after it was behind the paywall. And he said, this fucking Jaffe guy's a fucking idiot. He doesn't know shit about fucking politics. I said, all right. And I wrote to him on the comments. I said, all right, well, if you want, I'll put you on the show. Let's debate it. Tell me what I'm an idiot about. And I didn't expect to hear back from him, but he wrote back. He goes, well, I'm driving across the country right now, but let's do it Monday. So Monday I'll be debating somebody from the comments.
Nice.
Because, it's fun.
It is fun.
So if you're interested, come on over to the channel. But no, thanks for having me. Always fun. Good conversation. Good to see all you guys.
Likewise. All right, Micah, goodbye to you. I'll see you shortly.
Goodbye. And, I'd be remiss. We made all these, talking about great directors. How did we not mention, is his name Uwe Boll? Famous.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
How do we not mention him? It's an Uwe Boll joint. That's, we got to switch one of those movies to him.
Yeah.
Maybe Colin's movie, just to be on the safe side.
Oh, God. No.
Or maybe Dave the Diver.
On the set, and he would kill people underwater. You do not want him behind a camera.
So Dave the Diver's perfect. All right. Dave the Diver. It's an Uwe Boll joint. That's what we're going with.
And Lockmort, goodbye to you from Europe. Be well.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
I think Spike Lee should direct Lockmort's movie because it's clearly the black movie at this point. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Sweet baby ain't got to me. but yeah. No, thanks for having me. It was fun to get my thought or get our minds off of horrible stuff. So this was good.
Indeed. Well, I appreciate you guys. Good to see all of you, and thank you all out there for your love, kindness, and support. Please send your best, of course, as I'm sure you already are, to Dustin and to Holly. We'll be back for more. Keep your mind off of things and try to keep this train rolling as we wish the best for our fam. So we'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye. Constellation is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show was conceived by and is directed and hosted by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-host is my brother, David Moriarty. The show is produced by Last Stand's executive producer, Dustin Furman, and is edited by associate producer, Ben Smith. All Last Stand theme music is by Ramon Narvaez, and all of our graphics and logos are by Dagan Moriarty. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's podcasts, including Constellation, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest support tier, and we're infinitely grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor.